Good evening and welcome to the October 21st, 2025 Hutchinson City Council meeting. The meeting is now in order. Mary, please call the roll.
Richardson.
Here.
Garza.
Here.
Fast.
Here.
Magers.
Here.
Goss.
Here.
Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have Victor Halfmoon from Legacy Bible Church here for the prayer.
Let's pray. Father, what a privilege it is to come before you this evening. And we know, God, that is only because of your grace and through your Son, Jesus Christ. Father, we lift up this council meeting tonight and just ask you to pour out your favor upon it. Bless each person that's here tonight. Provide for their needs and those of their family. Lord, we ask you to give special favor to every council member that's here, that you would give them wisdom, direction, humility, and bring them together in unity. Lord, may you bless this community, and may it glorify you. We ask your benefit upon it. And we ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Next item.
Item number 4, proclamations, National First Responders Day.
If you are here for this proclamation, please join me at the podium. Whereas first responders, including public works and utilities professionals, firefighters, police officers, emergency medical technicians, 911 operators, paramedics, and other emergency personnel stand on the front lines of our communities, selflessly serving and protecting the citizens of Hutchinson, Kansas in times of crisis. And whereas first responders respond quickly, swiftly, and courageously to emergencies, often putting their own lives at risk to ensure the safety and well-being of others, whether in natural disasters, accidents, medical emergencies, or public health and safety threats. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in Hutchinson, Kansas to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and other first responder efforts in their respective communities. And now, therefore, I, Stacy Goss, Mayor of the City of Hutchinson, Kansas, do hereby proclaim October 28th, 2025 as National First Responders Day. You can applaud.
Council, thank you. This is this group behind you. I mean, it's all the individuals that when something happens, this is the group you want to show up. So, I mean, hats off to all of them. So thank you.
I'll keep it short and sweet here too. You guys know that now. Put it bluntly, you guys got one hell of a team here in Hutch. Everyone behind us here, and it's proven today. We had a heck of an afternoon with fires in town here today, and everyone here is all backing each other up, standing shoulder to shoulder. So I can say I'm very proud to be part of this group. Thank you.
Wasn't planning on talking, but thank you. Obviously, thank you very much for the recognition and proclamation. Again, short and sweet. Everyone here has different roles, but ultimately, our ultimate objective is to keep the community safe. So, very proud to work amongst everyone in this room. Thank you.
We're going to get in tie, right?
Come on. Guys, come on in.
Stay right here. Thanks.
And before you guys go, I do want to say something. 24 years ago, I got in a wreck here in Hutch and almost died. I had to be life flighted to Wichita. I was 15 years old, and it was actually 24 years ago last week. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you, because I wouldn't be here without you guys. So thank you for everything that you guys do every day. I saw the smoke over there today and heard the sirens and said a prayer for you guys. So you're always at the top of my mind, and thank you for everything you do. This next part is oral communications from the audience. I'm sorry, please call the next item.
Item number 5, petitions, remonstrances, and oral communications from the audience.
Thank you. This next part is oral communications from the audience. Is there anyone here in the audience to speak? Go ahead, sir.
Yes, my name is Jeff Clark. I'm here because I am a little disgruntled about some situations that's happened to me lately. I've been here in Hutchinson since 1988 when I bought my little business on the south end of Maine. Started a little auto shop and later went into lawn service. And around September 1st, sometime in there, I got a letter from the city saying my place was too junky. I had a junkyard there. I had some personal problems with me and my wife being sick and some things going on. And first communication I got from the city was, you got a junkyard and you got so many days to clean it up, or we going to take your stuff? So I contacted, tried to come down and talk to the city people. Not happy, and I'm a cusser. So when people respond negative to me, I can't always promise you what's going to come back off of my lips. And I'm sure it wasn't kind, but I wasn't getting treated with any respect, and so I didn't bring a whole lot of respect. And I've been down there for, like I said, I bought the place in '88. I haven't seen a grader in my alley but about 4 times. I haven't seen much done down around there in all those years. And the first thing I hear from the city is, you got a junkyard. I'm in the lawn business right now. This is the busiest year we probably ever had with the rain. I'm pretty much a solo business person. All I've been trying to do was survive in this town. I coached. I raised 2 kids here who was exemplary kids. And you can still look to this day, some of the stuff that they did and left a mark on this town. I try to give back to this town. And the first thing I get is a letter saying, you got a junkyard. You need to get it cleaned up. You got 15 days. My wife had a major deal going on at the time, and I had to go to Minnesota. And I contacted Mr. Garza, and he said he'd get me some extra time. And what they wanted done was some old cars that was wrecked, or pickups that was wrecked on my lot, which I bought from Midwest Iron. I didn't look at the deed, but I assumed that it was a commercial lot when I bought it. This thing kind of started because my daughter wanted to do something for her dad, so she bought me 2 nice signs that says Jeff's Lawn Service. Somebody complained and said they was an eyesore because it was on a residential lot. With my situation with my wife, they said it had to come down, it had to be moved. I had no time to do it. I tarped it. It's not a sign. I guess you can call it a clothesline now. Yes, I'm very, very bothered by the way this all went down. And then I got more letters that said all your stuff is junk. You're running a junkyard. It's got to be out here in so many days. Like I said, I talked to Mr. Garza. He got me a little time. I started contacting people. I gave it all away. I'm a mechanic. Yes, I take stuff off of old cars, put them on old cars, make it operable vehicles where I can work. Not everybody's got deep pockets to buy new stuff. That's how I make my living. And to be treated like that Mr. Garza told me I had some time. Then I get a letter summons that wants you in court October 31st at 7:45 on these same deals because I didn't get it done fast enough. I'm a one-man operation. I got a wife, I got a business. And yes, it hurts when you give to a community. For all these years, coaching, I was helped with the high school at the freshman level, just trying to make this town respectable. And yes, I feel like a D-rag. My neighbors are down around there and trying to talk to them. Are you guys having any problem? They tell me no. They're repair people too. They're working people too. But their stuff, when we work on cars, we mow grass, we have old stuff that can't, don't, maybe some people ain't good enough. But that's what we got to work with. We feed our families with it. And then when you have a city that comes at us like that, what are we supposed to think? I asked the other business, I'm the only black business down on that end besides Richard Gray. Nobody else got any summons for the stuff they had setting out. My weeds was a little taller because my wife comes first and always will. But I tell you what, I try to be a good citizen, but I can be a rebel rouser because the city's got a lot of problems that somebody just wants to walk around and point them out. I seen Mr. Fast right here in this building. And I approached him. And Mr. Fast, what you said to me was, if you got a summons, you must have got a lot of notices that you ignored. You was wrong. I don't ignore nothing. Okay? I major in the minors. I try to take care of the little things where I don't have big things. This is the first time in my life that I ever had to come before a council or be summoned to a court. I teach kids to go by the rules. If you can't go by the rules, you find a way to change it. And what you guys have done to me is I'm going to find a way to change this kind of stuff. Just because people don't have money, they're not your D-rag. Yeah, I'm your Huckleberry. I'm the guy who will fight you to the end. I will spend my last dime to have respect. Good day.
Mr. Clark, come back up there. Did you talk to Mr. Lady? I got with Mr. Lady. Your court was dismissed. Did you know that?
No, nobody told me that.
Yeah.
I was supposed to meet with Mr. Lay, and he was going to call me.
Yes.
I didn't get that call.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
Well, when I saw you at the city offices,
I caught you off guard. I know I did.
well, and what happened? I believe Matt came into a room. I got Jason Lady into a room to explain exactly what was going on, to give you as much time as you needed. And
That ain't the way I took it. I was going to have a meeting. They was going to call me. They was going to come to my business, was going to look at what was there, what they wanted gone. I was going to try to comply. And then I get.
Well, Jeff, and I want you to know, I've seen it over and over again. This stuff, by the time it goes to court, man, a lot has to happen before we do that.
I don't know about that. I haven't been a part of this system.
Okay, well,
and I don't want to be a part of this system. But if I have to be, I'm going to be telling it like it is.
Okay.
Okay? If you want to fight, I'll fight.
I know.
Down
I
to
don't
my
want
last
to fight.
dime. Because I'm not going to be pushed around after I try to do everything I can like a regular citizen. Yeah, I am pissed. I don't care who knows it. So do what you want. But hey, the battle's not over. I'm not done. I'm not your usual kind of black boy that you can just push. I don't push. I push back.
Mr. Clark, I will get hold of Mr. Lady. He's supposed to talk to you about this. I talked to him, and he's dismissed. So I will talk to him and get a hold of you. There he is. Yes, sir. Come on up.
Good evening, council. Jason Lady, building official. What questions do you have for me, sir?
No, Did you guys, you represent him, when I talked to you, did they go down there and tell him that this is dismissed, what we and you talked about, or what? How, after I talked to you, what happened?
After we talked,
Yes, sir.
then he came in and Councilmember Fast was here.
Okay.
And they had a discussion out in the, well, over in the office anyway. And then we had a discussion after that. We brought Mr. Clark into one of the rooms there and had a good discussion, I thought. So we have put an extension on it right now.
Okay.
And giving him more time, and we'll keep working with him. We have delayed the, I told my staff to go ahead and delay the, talk to the court system and delay that. So we've pushed that off. I don't remember the date off the top of my head, but they're working that end of it. So
Okay,
we have given more time, and we're going to continue to work with them right now.
got it, Clark, Mr. Clark?
I want to know specifics. I was told they was gonna come talk to me where I could tell it, they could tell me what they wanted gone. I got a dumpster down there, I brought down there to try to clean up my business. They, in their little warrant, they said it was a permanent fixture. Nobody talked to me about what was there. I didn't get a permit to put it there, if that's what you're supposed to do.
Okay.
But I did put it there. In their court papers, they're saying it's a permanent fixture. I look around this town and there's so many, what containers, I guess is what we call it, storage containers. But mine's the only one that's offensive, I guess. When I talk to some other people who has them, have you had any problems? I have. Oh no, I haven't heard anything. Nobody said nothing to me. What am I supposed to think? I'm being singled out?
And just to address that comment, there are several storage containers throughout the town that we have been addressing, so definitely not singling anybody out.
Okay.
So,
Is the only remedy to remove the vehicles and the storage container, or is one option to add additional screening or fencing? Like, is it a site issue, or is it that
that'd
it's
be
an
a
existence
discussion
issue?
I'd have to have with Matt Williams, with the
Okay.
Director of Planning. And we'd have to look at the zoning and have that discussion of what would be allowed down there or not allowed down there.
I'll just say one thing, Matt Williams, Director of Community Development. I mean, we deal with code violations all over the city, hundreds of violations. I don't want to get into the specifics of this case. We're not prepared to do that tonight in front of
Right.
everybody. But I promise you, we send multiple notices. Anytime anybody asks for an extension, we give them an extension. We push court dates out, we work with people, and we'll continue to work with Mr. Clark.
Okay. Mr. Clark, Mr. Clark, come up to the podium, please, sir. Yeah. Are you satisfied with that, or is there any, are they gonna work with you on this? So,
I want specifics.
Specifics?
Don't tell me you're gonna work with it, and then I'm out down here guessing. I gave away, I don't know how many
right,
dollars. I mean, it's junk to people, but I go try to buy something from a salvage yard. Go buy a transmission. Go
right.
buy an engine. Go buy a rear end.
Yeah.
Go buy some of that stuff.
Right.
I gave it all away, trying to comply with what they wanted. Okay? That lot is that they called residential. It's got a guy supposed to be coming to get it, and I'll be talking to him to see where he's at, or I'll have him take it to the salvage yard myself. I have a little old trailer sitting there that I worked yesterday and got some tires on it, where I can get it out of there. I don't want to be here fighting with you guys. If somebody would, here's the deal. I hope you guys would have learned something from Midwest. I knew the man who had Midwest. You gave him some land out there to put his stuff out there. And the reason he didn't move it is because the city and the newspaper called his business a junkyard. He told me out of his own mouth. He said, the city will go broke before they move my stuff. It'll take them 20 years. You can go back and look and see when that all happened. It's still down there. They're still moving it. They could have had it moved by showing some damn respect. How hard is that? You don't have to push everybody. All you have to do is go talk to them. Tell them what you want. You don't know what their whole situation was. You don't care. You know, my wife was in a life and death situation. At the time they talked to me, I wasn't very sociable. I didn't care about nobody else. I cared about my wife. And then they come and bring this at me. No, I don't care a whole lot about Hutchinson, Kansas right now. Okay? I don't trust a damn thing. So do what you got to do, because that's what I'm going to do. I'm not backing up. I'm not going to go by idle deals. Hey, we'll work with you. You'll be Pacific, and we'll go from there.
And as part of our conversation the other day, I did tell Mr. Clark that we would be contacting him, and we'll go down there and address the issues that we have on the property.
Okay.
So there will be a site meeting.
Okay, sir. I appreciate it. You would let him know what's going on. I appreciate it.
Yes, we'll do.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Is there anyone else here to speak to the audience? I'm sorry. She's going to come up first, and then I'll have you come up.
Good evening. I am not on the agenda tonight, but we're excited. I want everyone at City Council, you all have the architect drawings for the Bernard project. We are pretty excited because part of the building's going to be demoed, and since it was a historical project, I had spoken in the past about having a kitchen to generate revenue, to hire people, and to continue with our catering service. So you have the drawings. There is more coming from Mann and Associate also that shows the particulars about what we're doing and what we're wanting to do. And of course, Mr. Friars and Mann Associate are working with this. So this will make a significant progress, as well as the demo being done, it being cleaned up. And Mann and Associate, if you look at the architect drawings, has taken that part that is structurally safe and sound, and I get my kitchen, and I'm happy. Any questions? No? Okay, I want you to know.
Thank you.
Are these the same? Are these two? I think I have.
One of them has the particulars
Okay.
of what's going to be changed and done, and then the other one shows the demo. Mr. Garcia? do you have
No,
your
I'm
hand
just
up?
scratching my head, no way.
And Ms. Gress, tell me the name of your demo contractor.
Rick Friars.
Rick Byers.
He was here last time.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hello, my name is Joe Mora, and I live on the south end of town here on East B. There has been a sizable hole in the road between Avenues A and B on Cleveland. It was there for over 3 months. And one of the residents in that area did see Click Fix. That was a month ago. I did see Click Fix, said this is really not acceptable. There was a mosquito cesspool growing in this said hole. Said hole is the size of an SUV. And I know that because I parked my SUV next to it and took a picture. And so I was driving along last week, and I noticed said hole is getting filled. I want to say thank you for said hole being filled. And I did say thank you to the workers. However, I was then given more reasons to question because the worker said this is a temporary fix. The temporary fix apparently has to do with the fact that there's, this may be wrong information, 4 valves that are uncontrollable in this area of town. And so I have a few questions for you. The first is, my house was built in 1900, and I know some of the pipes that are down there aren't a whole lot younger than my house. So I would like to know what the plan is for the future, because as we all know, when we budget, it's better to be proactive than reactive, correct? So what is the plan for replacing pipes in the south end of town because the infrastructure is failing quickly? That's my first question. Second, is my water bill being affected by 4 valves that cannot be stabilized? And I have asked other residents in the area about this, and I will continue to ask. I'll do my research on it. Because I have a revolving door, so it's quite possible that I just have too many people in my house. But it is also possible, in my mind, that these valves may be an issue with my water bill. So that's my second question. And my third question is for the council member who lived next door to said hole for 3 months. What are you going to do to advocate for this end of town on this pipe issue, which may not be an issue in the council right now, but I feel like it should be some point in the future because most of those pipes are well older than me, and I'm turning 50 this year. So,
To answer her question, I am the one that lives next door to this hole. So that's-
my husband's cousin.
So nobody worry about it, it's me.
I don't hold back on anybody,
No,
Steve.
you don't. No,
I
you
do
don't.
not. Okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, ma'am.
And Joe, if you're back there, you can turn the timer off. We'll sit on this for a minute. So were you the one who sent me the message about this like 2 days ago?
2 days ago?
A couple days ago?
Last week? I might have sent one over.
It is Tuesday, so it might have been like Friday.
I
Thursday,
probably
Friday.
was,
Okay.
yes.
So yes, this was brought or was put on my radar at the end of last week. I talked to one of our engineers about it today, and he said he was going to talk to 2 of the people who are working on that project tomorrow morning and get me an answer. Without going into specifics of the project of when that will be completed, what I can say is when those old pipes break or one of the connections break, we have to send them out for custom fitting, and that takes a long time because they don't have just aftermarket things that fit any longer.
Understood.
So that builds some extra time in there, and then when you're working on the pipes, other things break, of course, that again we don't have on hand because they're all custom made. So that is always coming into play when we're working pretty much south of 11th Street, where yes, the infrastructure is older. With your water bill, because you're on a meter, you should not be impacted by any valves that are not connected to your property. So they would have to be between your meter and your home in order to impact your water bill.
Okay, thank you.
And did we or did we not include the smart meters are in the budget for next year, Mr. Villegas?
Yeah, we're budgeting for those, and
Okay.
we should have a progressive water meter replacement program. So.
Yes. So what that means, and this will impact everybody in the city, is in the next year, well, I don't know how long it'll take to replace them. Do you want to talk about it?
The smart meters I can talk to.
Yes, okay. I will let her come up and explain the smart meters because it's a really big benefit to everybody.
So the smart meters that you're talking about can be read by either cell phone towers, or we're proposing to do our own towers, and they will be read, from my understanding, at least hourly. It's still in the process. And so the benefit of that is if somebody has a water leak, we can know, that day that it starts and then alert customers sooner. So it'll be a major benefit, but it's going to take a lot of time and manpower to make this happen. So we're budgeting for that to happen over the next 3 years.
Yeah. Ms. Mora, can you come back up, please? So what that would mean is just like with the electric utility, you can log in, you can see what your electric bill is running, that sort of thing. We will essentially have a similar function for your water bill sometime within the next 3 years, rolled out for the entire city of Hutch. So that means if there were a break that would be that would be on your property, that would be your responsibility off of your meter, you would be able to find out about it immediately instead of the next time it hits your bill, which could be weeks, water running for weeks and racking up.
Okay. So that is all good and well. My concern is that the pipes are breaking rapidly, and that we had a possibility of being without water for 2 days because of it. So what is the city's plan is what I want to know about dealing with the infrastructure on the south side of town. Because the water pipes are one issue, drainage is another issue. I love my brick roads, but there's an issue, okay? I would like to know what the plan is for the south side of town before we have to be reactive. Because I believe that the south side of town holds a lot of value. I may live in the hood. I like to say I have the nicest house in the hood. Steve may disagree. He may think he has the nicest house in the hood. But we try to take care of things down there. And I would like to know what is the plan for that area of town, because those pipes are constantly having problems. This is not the first year that I have had somebody knocking on my door saying, I'm sorry, ma'am, you may be out of water for 24 to 48 hours.
Mayor, if I could,
Yeah, go ahead.
I really do appreciate your questions. I did ask for Mark Manis, our water superintendent, to go up just so he can describe to you the issues that we experienced while we were working on that project. And secondly, item 7, we plan on addressing the aging infrastructure as part of the water infrastructure utility rates discussion. So please stick around for that, because a lot of the other questions that you have should get answered in that presentation.
Okay. I did see the wastewater on the agenda,
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
Mark, if you could kind of relay some of the challenges. I just want the community to know that we are trying to be responsive to this.
Commissioner Mark Manis, Water Superintendent for City of Hutch. The problem, what we had is we're getting ready to demo that well house 2. And to demo it, we had to shut the water off. When we started to shut the water off, it went from one valve to the next valve to the next valve, because there were several valves in that area that was broke down. We had about 12 square blocks shut off at one time. And we started this, we tried to get it, we started the project, and then the schools were getting ready to start. So we shut down part of it so that we could get a valve put in so that we wouldn't affect school on the first day, which we got that done. Going back to the well house, those lines were put in probably 1890s, around that area. A lot of them are leaded in. So they're oversized pipes. So whenever you work with oversized pipes, you have to have certain fittings that'll go onto them so that we can get the water back on as quick as possible. So what we're doing is we're trying to get the fittings, and we're trying to get the valve situation. We're cutting in valves where we can, so that way whenever we shut that system down, we've got the smallest amount of homes out of water. And it's gonna take a little bit. I did see the complaint come in, and that's when I had the guys go back and fill the hole in with sand, so that way the open hole wasn't there. So if somebody wanted, I know the wind was blowing the snow fence down and blowing the cones over, so I just had them go ahead and backfill it, so that way we could make that site a little bit safer. But we are planning on going back when we have time. We'll start cutting some more valves in so that we can get that area isolated and get that building tore down.
And when we have time, what does that mean?
As soon as we can get the fittings in, or get the fittings together, and whenever we can get the valves. Right now we're working on a plan. We're trying to get see which valves are broke. We have about 12 valves broke in that area, and they've been broke for some time. So we're going out and we're exercising the good valves, and we're just trying to get a shutdown, because we can't really cut the main unless we have a decent shutdown, because you can't put fittings on it whenever you have a half a pipe flow. And we did that on A Street. Our guys got in there, and we had a half a water line full, and they were cutting it. Our saws quit, but we got it done.
So will it be done by Thanksgiving, by Christmas? Can you give a timeline?
We were out there, last week turning valves in that area, and we've got some of them that, shut down to where workable to where we can cut the line and still be able to get the fittings in. So that's my plan is to get it done by Thanksgiving.
Okay.
To where we can do, and we'll be on B Street next week trying to isolate some more valves, get them exercised so we can see what we have.
Will there be any outages next week?
No, not during exercising. But when we exercise, we just exercise the valve. We have a machine that we can put on there, and we try to, like 6-inch valves, 8-inch valves take a certain pressure, otherwise we'll snap them. So sometimes it'll take you 4 or 5 hours to exercise 3 valves, just so we don't break another one, and then we are in a pickle.
Okay, now to defend myself. I had a lot of people come to my house. Maybe I should go I knew what was going on. I knew they had to get new valves. I knew all the stuff. I was asking questions all the time. My gosh, that's right next door to me. It's the street next to my little truck. So I understand what you're saying. So maybe next time this comes up, I have meetings all the time. Maybe I should just have a special meeting for that. So I thank you for coming here and doing what you had to do. So, yeah, I was aware of all this stuff, and I was talking to the city about this. So we have a rotation type system. You'll hear from them how it works. And everything is done by the rotation and all that. So the pipes will get tended to this year. So we just have to see what happens. So go ahead. Sure.
I'm just going to cut to the chase. What is the cost analysis on sticking a patch on this stuff over and over and over, as opposed to getting new pipes? That's what I want to know. Because my husband's one of those guys that buys the cheapest tool available. Do you know how many tools I've had to buy? Okay. You can either buy 1,000,000 tools or you can buy the right tool.
Right.
And patching these up is just going to keep adding and adding and adding and adding up. I want to know, is it cost analysis, does it make any sense whatsoever to keep doing this for how long before those 1890? Come on. This would not be allowed north of 17th, and I'm not trying to play classism, okay? I didn't grow up here. I grew up in Bueller. So what I'm telling you, though, is that 1890 is a little bit old, and if we're going to keep retrofitting everything, special ordering everything, that does not make sense in my mind.
Well, I think this happened because they're going to take the water well down. If they wouldn't have touched the water well, cut the pipes to take the water well out, they wouldn't have had this problem. But the whole idea of it was taking the water well's not used anymore, so they were going to take the building down. So it's getting ready to cut the pipes to cap the pipes going in there, and this all happened. They found the old valves and
So
everything.
the issues that happened last year and the year before that, they wouldn't have happened either.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm just, yeah.
We
I'm
have,
just saying, things
every
happen
year,
all the time to these pipes.
every year or two, we have studies that are done on our infrastructure to see where our weak spots are at. If I remember right, the areas of town that we have actually the biggest failures are the pipes that were installed like post-World War II. There was a period there where the materials were not nearly as good as what we had even 100 years ago. So it comes down to what areas are we needing to, we got to do a Band-Aid to get the water working now, but then what are we looking long-term as far as infrastructure improvements? And that's one of the things we've been working on is where do we put our dollars at for infrastructure improvements without putting too much of a burden on our tax base, but doing it in a value approach as best we can. There's going to be Band-Aids because stuff happens. But like you're saying, what are we doing for the long term? And is it the 1890s pipes that are failing at, I don't know, a lower percentage than the 1950s pipes? Because they're failing faster and more often? Where do we put those at? And it's a little bit of both. Or as we're redoing an entire section, do we go ahead and strip out the pipe since we're tearing everything up at the same time? That's an approach we're trying to look at, not only for pipes, but also sidewalks and other improvements.
And I understand on the southern end of town, you've got some historical properties, and it's going to cause issues because you're digging up roads and that type. I understand that there's a lot that goes into this, okay? I don't want to seem unsympathetic to your plight, and I understand that budgeting for an entire city is not easy. I just want to know if there is any kind of a plan for the south side of the town in the future. That's it.
Okay.
So, does not have to be answered today. I would just like to know that we have somebody advocating for us.
But wait, there's more because it will be answered today, actually.
Okay.
There is a plan.
But wait, there's more.
But wait, there's more. There is a plan. Yeah.
When I find out, I'll come down your house and I'll let you know.
All right.
That work?
You know where it's at.
I do.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
She is my cousin, by the way, so we're cousin fighting, if you understand what I'm saying right now.
Family reunion's going to get awkward for you.
Is there anyone else here to speak
that?
in public comment? Seeing none, next item, please.
Item number 6, consent agenda.
Any questions from council?
I don't have any questions.
I don't either.
I would move to approve the consent agenda and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Richardson?
Yes.
Souza?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes.
Megers?
Yes.
Goss?
Yes. And before we have the next item, Mr. DeGarmo, did you want to speak?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Greg DeGarmo, I'm the president of SEIU Local 513, representing the classified workers for the city of Hutchinson. I just want to thank the city's negotiating committee this last year. We had a very good, respectful discussions. We were pretty much in agreement on a lot of things, just had maybe kind of iron out some wrinkles. Not everything, but we can meet again and keep working on those things. But we did have very good working relations, and it's very much appreciated to try to improve the working conditions for the employees for the city of Hutch. I think the city of Hutch is definitely becoming one of the premier places to work in the city of Hutch. So I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Item number 7, ordinances and resolution. A, consider a resolution approving the updated water and wastewater rates and authorize the mayor to sign.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The public comments is where the action is at tonight. For my part, it's going to be brief, but I did want to provide some context around our utility rates generally and kind of what some of the thought processes were. So one, we knew that we had to raise the utility rates themselves. Based on the issues that we're now aware of at our wastewater treatment facility, based on the issues that we're aware of at our water treatment plant, and then a lot of our underground conditions like what was mentioned tonight. I actually have a real life sample of a water main. Mark, if you could do a little show and tell for us. So that is the rough average of what is in the ground currently.
Thank you, Vanna.
By average, meaning that there's some that are far worse. And so in the...
Wait, hold on. What's in it, though?
Tubercles. It's like iron bacteria.
It's not black.
It's not poop.
Yeah, reach in there.
Although it does look like it.
It does.
It's the fresh one.
And so I would... What's going on there is a process of tuberculation where it just slowly clogs the pipe, just like anyone's arteries, depending on the food that they eat. And so across town, we do have examples of that. We didn't keep any of those samples, but that is a real sample, and it's probably an average of what we have. So as the pipes burst or whatever, the pressure differentials, that's one of the leading factors, or at least a contributing factor to our water main breaks. And so knowing that, and then also looking through historically at our CIP programs, we are fairly intermittent at best on our water main replacement programs. And so with this, we are trying to ratchet that up so we can eventually be proactive with our water main replacements, but we have a lot of work to do. So that's kind of the overarching theme of the rates needing to go up. Secondly, I would like to add that usually when it comes to these types of discussions, people from the community will say the city needs to be run like a business. Under normal circumstances, that's usually intended to be a dig, in some sense that we don't know what we're doing. But in this application, if it were to be run like a business, theoretically, someone's water bill would be just as expensive as their electric bill. Factoring all the pros and cons and anything else, profit margins, whatever the case may be. So in recognizing that, we have also budgeted for a utility billing assistance. I think in here about $100,000 for at least the initial start. So we are aware of the fact that anywhere between 42 to 45% of our community is ALICE. And so for those that may not know, ALICE simply refers to the working poor, where you make just enough that you're not really getting ahead by any stretch. And so we're trying to be conscientious of those that we're impacting. And so that's kind of the lead into this. I do plan on turning it over to David Gwynn, our utilities director, and then eventually the rest of the team. So David, it's all you.
Good evening, Council. David Gwynn, Director of Utilities. I'm glad you're here because we're going to go over some stuff tonight that I think is going to be beneficial for you to hear. Again, the water and sewer rate study. I have with me Josiah Close and Alex Beck with HDR. I'm going to go over a few things that I really wanted to highlight, and then they're going to get into the results of the study. So the agenda for this evening, we're going to cover the purpose of the study, draft study results, and then the next steps that we need to take. So purpose of the study, who this impacts. We currently have around 15,000 residential and 1,400 non-residential customers in Hutchinson. Our water treatment facility, built in 2009, has approximately 300 miles of water main. And the wastewater treatment plant, built in 1998, has around 240 miles of sewer main. Just highlighting a couple of these on the side here with the capital improvement projects. The wastewater treatment plant, you guys have all seen, there's significant improvements that need to be done out there. We have a SRF loan with KDHE waiting for approval so that we can spend a tip of what we really need to out there. It's $18 million, which is what we're planning, but there's far more that needs to be done. The water treatment center, there's not that much that needs to be done as considering what needs to be done at the wastewater plant, but it's 16 years old. If we don't start making those investments and we don't start making that properly, we will eventually get to that point. I mean, that's just the hard truth of it. Asset and renewal replacement, what this lady is talking about, our water mains, our valves, our pumps, all those things have a lifespan on them. We need to have a plan going forward of how we're going to address that. Currently, we run to fail. There is no proactive look at down the road, this is how we're going to do this. And we simply cannot continue to do that, but it takes capital in order to combat that. So. These are the funding capital projects all the way out to 2034. This slide kind of gives you the highlights of the money from the last one. Water and sewer both are around $60 million. If you'll note there, water line replacement, ma'am, there's $30 million that we're proposing that we spend for water main replacement. That's not just in the south side of town, that's everywhere. And it's very important. Same kind of story with the sewer. There at the plant, $36 million. Sewer line improvement, we have a lot of I&I, which is infiltration from groundwater, rainwater, whatever doesn't belong. We know we have a problem there.
Can I ask you a question right here?
Sure.
With the water line replacement, how do you prioritize what is replaced? Is it by age? Is it by
We don't have
deterioration?
a good answer for that yet.
Okay.
But we are looking into that as far as how we need to prioritize it. So as age is one of the things. Breaks are one thing. So it's historical breaks versus yearly breaks. How many times have we been here? How many times have we fixed it? You know, is it worth continuing to fix? Do we need to focus somewhere else? We have got to come up with that plan and make that plan, and we will.
Is that included in the plan that we funded with HDR?
It is.
Okay, and when will we have that plan back?
Hey, Alex back with HDR. Our schedule that we had at the very beginning of the project was the end of September of next year. So we are on track for that. So September 2026, we'll have that plan dotted up. In addition to the analysis that David mentioned with material and break history, we're also including an age-based. So it's a combination of the records that we do have that the city has provided us that we're analyzing now to then maximize that investment as part of this.
And how far back of records are you analyzing?
It really is across the board. With some of the materials on the sewer side and the water side, we have all the way back to their installed date. And with other ones, we have nothing. So it really depends on the city. It depends on different items. So certain parts of the city does have more information than others. I don't know exactly if it's which section right now on the top of my head, but there are areas that do have more than others. But we're going to prioritize the best of our ability with the information that we will provide.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, I would like to add, part of the water main replacement program generally, now that we are budgeting to have appropriate cash on hand to do this, we can hopefully get out of the practice of bonding the water main replacements, because say in the example, if we were to bond $3 million a year for water main replacements, it's not just $3 million, it's $3 million plus interest. And so by having enough cash on hand, you can save the city and ultimately the residents in the long term by not having to pay for interest 20 or 10 years down the road. So that was baked into a lot of this as well. And I forgot to add that in my opening, but that was very intentional throughout this. So.
And you will see all that when they dive into the results of all this. Anything else before I continue?
Thank you.
Okay. In the proposed rate design, there's a couple things I wanted to highlight. There's a lot of key things in there, but a couple things I wanted to talk about just real quick. We're adding in a low-income assistance program because we understand people, they need help, right? So if you qualify, we have to get through that and kind of iron that out and how that's going to work, but we are adding that into this. We are also proposing that we change the way our current structure is. We want to update that to, instead of the more you use, the less you pay, the less you use, the less you pay. So we can promote water conservation. That's a big driver, especially nowadays. So goals and desired input for today. We want you guys to fully understand this, the results. So please, we will stand for questions when these guys get done. Go over anything that you want to ask. We're going to ask that you vote on this evening. We will have a recommendation for you, so we can get this implemented January 1 of 2026. I think is that my last slide? Then you're in. So Alex is going to talk a little bit more about purpose, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty.
Okay. I just wanted to reiterate that of all the water treatment center and wastewater treatment plant improvements that are part of this rate study is the same information that we have provided you in the past. There's nothing different in addition to that. And then also this is included in that SRF, that state revolving fund application that was then submitted October 15th that we discussed 2 weeks ago. So just so you know, the same information we presented a couple weeks ago is the same information that's included within this rate increase.
Can you step forward and make sure you're speaking to the mic? Thank you.
Okay. And I'm going to pass it over to Josiah to give a little background on the rate study and just some standard practices, and then we'll get into some greater detail.
Good evening. Josiah Close with HDR. Very timely discussion to help us queue up this. I do this primarily in my job, this focus, and so we're having these conversations around the country a lot lately, and so it's hard to rip the Band-Aid off, but it's necessary to do in a lot of communities, so you're not alone in that. So when we discuss conducting a water and sewer rate study, we look at these two manuals pictured here. The Water Environment Federation Manual Practice number 27 is for wastewater or sewer. American Water Works Association M1 manual is for water. What these manuals do is give us some methodologies and some things to consider as we conduct the rate study. So this helps us both from a strategic standpoint. We can structure the analyses in a similar way to all the communities around the country conducting a rate study. So you get that the ability to replicate that same structure. It also gives us some key variables and components that we want to look at as we go through the study so that, again, we can get the best management practices and key objectives to come out of this study to make it the most effective that we can. We're going to look at the costs and how we accumulate them. So we're primarily looking at the operations and maintenance expenses, your salaries, benefits, materials, and supplies. We're also then considering the capital component. So in the current and future years, how are we funding those programs? What are we targeting? What levels are appropriate? We ask all of these questions as we go through the study. And so we use that general framework from these manuals, and then we fine-tune it to the specifics from an engineering perspective of the two utilities, and then as well as how the customers utilize the system. So each community, the customers use water differently, they contribute wastewater volumes differently, and we want to reflect that within the study results. So now going into the results, the revenue requirement analysis, this is like the financial plan for the utility. So we're thinking of what are the total costs for each of the utilities, looking at them separately so that we can bake that into the rates, make sure that we're covering our costs and getting that full cost recovery, charging the customers. This chart looks at our capital improvement plan. So this would be those improvements. This is specifically for water, but so at the water treatment center, and then we also have those line replacements baked in here as well. What you can see in the bottom part of this graph, the dark gray, is our rate funded capital. And that's an important component within rates because that's what we're funding from cash or pay as you go. So we want to ideally increase that over time so that we are, again, not issuing debt so that we can pay for the renewal and replacement of the existing system as it loses useful life from an accounting perspective as well as an engineering perspective. We do have to borrow in the short term here. We projected out 10 years for the study. We're showing only the most recent 5 years, but we want to do that because we want to try to anticipate where we're heading with our renewal and replacement projects. So outside of this window, we actually see that debt assumptions fall off, and we are paying for this out of cash. But we do have the pain up front of getting into that replacement cycle. And so you can see that dark gray box increasing over time. But outside this window, I just wanted to point out we do get to that cash funding of the capital projects. For the revenue requirement summary here, this again is our total cost. So the dark gray is your operations and maintenance expenses, salaries and benefits, materials and supplies, those kind of things. We base that on the budget year for 26, and then we escalate that forward to keep pace with the increase in costs. So anywhere from 3 to 5%, depending on the line items, we try to keep track with those inflation of costs within rates. The orange area is the dark gray bar from the prior slide, so we're trying to incorporate that cost within rates that we are contributing to funding those capital improvement plans. And then the blue shaded area is our debt. So we have that as well included. And what you can see compared to our solid line, that's our current revenues, at the level they are going out into the future, we're not able to cover those costs. And so we have the proposed rate level at that dashed line in order to pay for all those expenses that we're identifying for the water utility. Another key component is that reserve or the cash on hand for a utility. So the operating reserve, we like to have that there for cash flow. So when we spend money as a utility to provide service, we have a lag between that and when you bill the customer, and then another lag when the customer pays the utility. So we need to have the cash flow covered within a reserve for several months. So that's where we come up with our 90-day target to make sure that we have that covered from an operational standpoint. We then also want to have a little bit of capital reserves available. This can be used again, projects sometimes shift years or the scope contracts or expands, and so we need, again, a little bit of cash flow there, buffer, so that we can pay for those projects as they come. And so this is over the next 5 years. We utilize a little bit of that capital reserves up front to try to transition into the pay-as-you-go funding. But then you can see we're meeting our cash flow projections over the 5 years and maintaining that margin within the water utility. Now to jump over to sewer, again we have an SRF loan, that's that large green piece for the wastewater treatment plant, addressing those deficiencies in fiscal year 26. And then again also a little bit of long-term debt as we transition into funding from cash the renewal and replacements of those lines, lift stations, any other improvements that we need to make on a recurring basis. Similar for sewer as water as far as structure here, we have the dark gray as your operating expenses going out, again inflating those line items to keep up with the escalation of costs going out over time. The rate funded capital paying for those renewal and replacements from cash. And we have a similar story where as we go out over time, we're not able to cover all of our costs in the sewer utility, and so we're proposing that dashed line of revenues. Especially you can see the blue shaded area with that SRF debt coming online. We need to make sure that we have rates at a level that we can cover those costs when we take out those loans. Similar approach on sewer as water, where we're trying to utilize some cash reserves in the capital account to smooth that transition as we go to more of a pay-as-you-go funding approach. And again, meeting that target 90 days of cash flow on the operating side to make sure that we're staying liquid in the sewer utility as well. So we're proposing the adjustments based on our operations and maintenance expenses as well as those capital costs, and maintaining the reserves again into the future. Make sure that we have cash flow, cash for emergency situations. What we're looking at for water here, this is an example at 6 HCF or 100 cubic feet of water. Currently that's about $35. And with the proposed increases in the rates, we would see between $3 and $4 a month increase for the next 4 years, and then a little over $2 in the last year of that 5-year period. For sewer at 5 HCF or 100 cubic feet, currently just under $24. And then that would go up between $4.50 and $6 about for 3 years. And then we're starting to cool off. Again, we have in sewer the SRF loan, we need to cover the debt service costs once we issue that. So we do have an increase there, and then we are leveling out to more inflationary levels in year 5 and into the future. So the next component then is the rate design. This is where we want to look at what the current rates are based on what we're seeing we need in the revenue requirement analysis for both utilities. We need to design rates to cover those costs. We also can incorporate then some policy considerations such as the low income assistance program and incentivizing that efficient water usage. So this is where we'll design the water rates to meet those objectives. So again, on the low income assistance program, right now we're targeting $100,000 from each utility to seed that program. We would calculate the benefit to each customer based on the applicants that apply and are approved. And that would be up to a total discount of their entire fixed charge. So if that did happen, they would just be paying for either the water that they use or the wastewater volumes that they contribute to the system. So on the fixed charges, on water, we have a meter charge. That's our fixed charge based on the size of service. There's no changes to that structure. On the volume side for residential, that's where we're going to start to encourage that efficient water usage, as well as helping customers to better control their bill by, if they want to cut back on water usage, they're able to get a lower price of water that we'll show in a couple slides here. And the same thing on sewer, moving to a two-tiered increasing block structure. So the first tier will be cheaper, and then the second tier will be higher. This reflects a lot of the ways that costs are incurred within a utility because capacity costs a lot more. If we could just run a 4 or 6 inch pipe everywhere, it would be a lot cheaper. We have to have, the summer months, watering and capacity goes into those costs. So we're trying to reflect that within our structure. There's strength charges on sewer as well, no changes there, that's just a cost per pound. And then on the sewer side, it will help get us eligibility with the community development block grants. So currently the rates are not at the level that are impacting customers, and so we're not eligible for some of those. So it may pay off in the future then as we are eligible and try to look for more affordable ways to fund some of these projects. If we're able to get those grants, we could apply them there. So just a couple slides on how we looked at setting the tiers. We try to, again, design the rates around the specific usage characteristics of the customers on the system. So what we did here is we averaged the monthly data for an annual basis, and we put the customers based on how much water they used into these buckets or groupings from 0 up to 150 plus. And this is typically what we see within a residential customer class, where a lot of customers are in that 0 to 5 HCF region, especially in the shoulder months and in the winter. And then as you go into summer, they'll start to move up into the upper tiers, and you'll see a concentration around that, but then there's also a tail out. And so when we design the rates, we're looking at this dashed line is representative to the axis on the right, the vertical axis. That's our cumulative percent. So we're trying to target the average amount of customers within that first tier or that cheaper water so that they can control their bill. And if you look over to that axis, you can see up to that 5 HCF, you're getting about 50 to 60% of customers on an annual basis would be in that cheaper tier of water. And this just shows it graphically as this is the total residential usage. Again, we're targeting, trying to get the basic needs within the first tier, or the cheapest for water. And then shoulder months and summer watering, we're getting into that second and third tier where we're trying to recover those capacity costs that we incur as a water utility. This table shows the proposed fixed charges for water. So there's the meter charge based on the service meter size, and we adjust that based on the increased capacity, potential capacity for a meter size. So the larger meters can use a lot more water, and so we reflect that in the fixed charges. The variable charges for residential, currently 0 to 500 HCF, 500 to 5,000, and then over 5,000. We're proposing that that would shift to the tiers there, 0 to 5, 5 to 15, and over 15, again reflecting how customers utilize water. Currently with the tier 0 to 500, there's no residential customers that would get out of that tier. So all of the water would be charged at that highest rate, the $3.67 currently. And what we tried to accomplish with this increasing block structure, you can see the 0 to 5, $3.79. As you go to the second and third tiers, we get a differential on that rate so that we're recovering more of the costs per unit in the second and third tier. Again, coming back to those capacity costs for the water utility.
Josiah, if I could, while we're on this slide, one of the things that I would like council to direct your attention to, we also are doing away with the tap fee for water and sewer. Fairly obsolete. Really, in this case, if you bake at least some of that into the rates themselves, so pay what you actually use versus kind of paying before you use something. So in this case, that is something that we're doing away with, is the tap fee itself. So again, another way to save the residents money without really jeopardizing us. So.
I noticed that the non-residential, as you go up in volume, it goes down.
Yes, so we at this time aren't proposing a change to the non-residential. Some of that is to do with within residential, they act much more similarly than in non-residential, depending on the business type. It's difficult to make tiers for an insurance shop versus any other, different usages of water. Someone may just have a bathroom, some may have a lot of usage of water, so it's much more difficult to make those tiers. And we just also didn't want to disincentivize business activity on a water usage basis by going to a tiered approach for them. Any other questions on the rates?
That tap fee was for 2 inches and less on a line. It's free for anything 2 inches or less. Okay.
So when we look at a bill comparison then, the status quo would mean the current rate structure that you have in place, looking at increasing those rates. You would see the 3 and 6 HCF customers do see a decrease in their bill, which again, that's the majority of customers are going to be in that range, at least in the shoulder and winter months and most of their summer months. And then as you go up in water usage, you can see the proposed rate structure with the increasing block tiers. You will recover more of those costs within those larger water users. We also wanted to look at some local utilities to see how we compared. So in the blue shaded area, third from the bottom is at your present rates, just under $35. Based on the proposed tiered rates, it would go to $37.37, and you would move up a couple of places. It is important, so we noted here the reverse osmosis treating. Currently, the only other comparable is Arkansas City, and you can see their rates are quite a bit higher. And so this is the quality of the water that you're producing. So it's obviously much more affordable to just use a well, bring up water, and some people may benefit from that given their own geology and topography, but for the city of Hutchinson to have that high quality water at that price, I think is a good sign, but also we want to make sure that we're reflecting the costs, so that's why we see that increase there. Onto the sewer side, again, no changes on the fixed charges, so the flat, or if you're metered, the minimum, the same approach. I should mention, I didn't on water, that we wrap up the cost of that low-income assistance program within the fixed charges. And then on the sewer variable charges, again, currently a uniform rate, $2.96. We'd be moving to a tiered structure, 0 to 4 HCF, and then greater than 4. And your lower tier there would have that lower cost, and you would be incentivized then to be within that and try to control your bill. That'd be one option you have there. And for non-residential, again, it is uniform currently, and we're not proposing any changes there. And the strength charges similarly would be charged in the same way that they are currently. The bill impacts, similar story to water. You see that 2 and 5 HCF, they're going to have a little bit of a decrease in their bill versus the current structure. And then once you reach that tipping point, usage above that, you would see subsequent increases in the bills given the tiered nature of the structure. So similar comparison on the water side, $23.87 currently a month. And with the proposed rates, we would go up to $27.85. Not jumping the next person in line there, but increasing the bill. And again, this would help us to get eligibility on those grant programs as well.
Okay, so next steps, we're asking council to vote on our recommendation for the structure that we've shown you guys tonight. So we can get it implemented by January 1 of 2026. We'll stand for questions, anything that you guys have that you haven't asked already?
I have a question on your income assistance program. So how do people go about applying for that?
We don't have any of that finalized yet.
Okay.
So we need to work with Angela and kind of get that rolled through of how this is exactly going to work. We just want it into that structure itself.
This is the program that we started talking about in March? April.
Oh, probably over a year ago.
Just a second. So we don't have one yet. So
right.
We can't say who qualifies and who doesn't or what any of that would play out. The goal would be to finalize that by the end of the year too.
Which we can do. Yes. That will be finalized before this goes into play.
I appreciate your benchmarking graphs. We are still way under what others are charging for water, which, Joe, to your point, probably is why we're not getting stuff done in a timely manner. It's just both of those, even the other one is right in the middle. And this is how my mind works. I want to be right in the middle or below. You know, I always hear the narrative, you know, Hutch is expensive to live in and all these things. When you look at the data, it is not true, generally speaking.
And I will say too, Councilmember Fast, that when we were looking at realistically, like our CIP as we were crafting it, do we even have the staff to pull that off? You know, do we have the inspectors that we need? Do we have the engineers that we need? Do we have the management that we need to really pull all of that off? And so this is our best efforts right now at saying we could pull this off. So it's also about being realistic with the resources that we have. So I think, again, as context.
I don't know if that answers or begs the question that I was going to ask, but do we have any idea of staffing levels and the projects that we anticipate?
We have not baked any kind of staffing up into this, correct? Yeah. We're not staffing up anything into this structure.
Okay.
So as part of our workshops with our planning, we do get some placeholder staffing assumed increases, but it is not super detailed at that point. And it's looking more of like, 8 years out, 15 years out, anticipated needing to expand as the system maybe grows, or certain these projects are taken on. But it's a pretty high level assessment. So there has not been a full-blown staffing plan that would be incorporated into the plan.
Will it be in the plan that we received September 26th?
The placeholder one would be in September. Just the placeholders. The more detailed version would not be included in that.
Okay. So that would fall on us to put together the detailed staffing plan.
Correct. And as city staff, as we work through these workshops, the more information that there's kind of prepared prior, you get to take that a little further. So, as we continue to work through this program, portions of it could be incorporated, but certainly not to the detail that may be needed for, in the really immediate short term or in the, 10-year time frame.
Okay. Ms. Moore, if you could come up, I want you to ask your question before you forget it. If you're like me, you already did.
One statement, one question. I would encourage you to include the thought process of the availability of getting parts and how long it will take once that hole is open to fill that hole when you do your assessment. But I agree, the 1950s pipes are breaking, but if you have a hole open for 3 months, that's not a good deal either. That's my statement. The question was the same as you had, Scott, on the $100,000, where that would go, because there's administrative fees anytime you administrate a grant. So would that go to a third party like the United Way, that type of thing? And if it does, when you consider third parties, and this is just, I guess, another statement, consider the fact that some of those third parties can get you matching grants and that type of thing that you cannot do if the money stays with the city. That's an ex-fundraiser's advice. I'm done.
There's going to be an election in 2 years for city council if you're interested.
Can you speak to, when we use the term grant regarding the SRF, these are not grants in the sense of like a fundraising type of grant, right? Can you
The
explain?
SRF loans?
Yeah. Is that the type of, is that what you were talking about when you mentioned grant earlier? We were talking about SRFs and grants from.
So the community
CDBG
development.
grants? Okay.
Yeah, block grant. So currently, our sewer utility, we don't charge enough to even qualify for the low-income grants. And so this should theoretically get us there, but that's how little we were charging. And so to not even qualify for a grant. So that was the grant that was mentioned earlier, was the CDBG grant.
And do we know what the minimum rate for the CDBG grants were?
Do you know off the top of your head? I don't recall.
It varies. It's a formula calculated based on the latest and greatest of the city stats, but it's slightly, last week calculated, it was slightly under $35 per month. So this initial year of increase still does not bring us there, but this, throughout this 5-year rate increase does get us, eligibility for that program in the near term.
We have to charge more to be qualified for a grant, so we pay less.
Correct.
On the water only, not on the sewer rate?
On the sewer.
It's on both.
It's
on
on
both
but
together?
the sewer is the one that is gonna be then delayed.
Okay.
Because as you can see up here, the 27 in the near term doesn't quite get to that metric, for just a couple of years.
Anything else?
Real quick,
Yes.
the word tapping, the city manager using it, tapping is, if I'm right, is when you put a water line in, we have to tap the sewer to the main.
Yes.
Am I right?
That's correct.
So that won't be charged to the customer. Before, when a person put a new water line, not sewer line, a sewer too, when they put a new water line or sewer line, we usually charge for a tapping fee.
Correct.
Now, that's gone.
Right.
Correct? So I don't know if the citizens knew what tapping was. I did, but I want to make sure I brought that out.
I think the plumbers mainly deal with that
Yeah.
when they come in and do that
Yeah,
stuff.
but now they're not gonna get charged for that tapping.
That's correct. For the
Okay.
residential side, yes.
Gotcha.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Next item, please.
Do we need
Oh,
to,
I'm
we need
sorry.
to take a vote on this?
Yes. Okay, any additional discussion from council? Before we have a motion, I do want to ask the audience for input.
I'm good right now.
I'm good.
Anything from you guys?
Nope.
Is there anybody in the audience who wants to speak to this item? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion.
I'd make a motion to approve the updated water and wastewater rates and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Bast?
Yes.
Magers?
Yes.
Goss?
Yes.
Item 7B, consider a resolution authorizing issuance of general obligation bonds to pay the cost of certain water system improvements and authorize the mayor to sign.
Joseph, do I need to dial in?
Please enter your password followed by the pound key. Thank you.
It's fine. Okay.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Rick McConnell.
Okay, great. Angela Richard, Director of Finance. Before you tonight, I have two resolutions for your approval and consideration with improvements for the water system. This is in regard to purchasing water rights from a business here in town. And so the first motion before you tonight is to approve the resolution authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds for these water rights. So this action allows us to spend monies before we actually bond the water rights. So this will allow us to incur those expenses and pay them as they come up. This does not bind us to any actions. It does not bind us to purchasing water rights. It does not even bind us to accepting bids for the general obligation bonds that we would issue. So I'll answer any questions you have, and also in addition, I have Rick McDonnell with Kutek Rock on the phone to help answer questions as well.
My question is doing this also wouldn't hurt our ability to issue bonds in the future if we decide not to go after these.
If we back out of this, is what you're saying, it would not hurt our ability.
And it does not hurt our bond rating either.
If we don't accept it, I don't think it would hurt our bond rating. I don't know if Rick can speak to that more, but this would go against our legal debt obligations, the max amount that we can bond.
Yeah, no, I think Angela's right. This in and of itself should not affect the bond rating. I don't think the city's anywhere close to over leveraged. And this, I think it's sort of prudent, having just listened to the presentation and comments, I think this is just sort of a prudent measure forward, and I think that's how the rating agencies would look at it.
Thank you.
Any additional questions from council?
No.
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 Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak on this item? Seeing none, I am looking for a motion.
I'll move to authorize issuance of general obligation bonds to pay the cost of certain water system improvements and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes.
Mayers?
Yes.
Goss?
Yes.
Item 7C, consider a resolution authorizing the public sale of certain general obligation bonds and notes of the city of Hutchinson and authorize the mayor to sign.
Okay, the next action before you gives city staff the ability to proceed with the sale of general obligation bonds and to issue temporary notes. So the general obligation bonds are for the Woody C. Avenue C Bridge and the traffic signal improvements that have already been authorized before by city council action. And so it would just be cost effective to go ahead and bond those now while we're going to issue temporary notes for the water right purchase as well. So why we're proposing to do temporary notes for the water rights is so that it gives us some time to decide how we're going to restructure the payment of those water rights. So it would give us the ability to assess whether we have any new major water users that come about in the next few years. And if so, how can we restructure the payment of those bonds in coordination with any industry we may get, if that makes sense. So because if we can structure the payment off at a shorter period, 15, 20 years, we're going to get a lower interest rate and save interest versus having to structure it over 20 or 30 years, sorry. Because we're proposing to pay that off with general fund money instead of water fund money, if you remember from the 2026 budget. So this would just give us some flexibility and buy us some time so we can determine how we best want to restructure the payments. And so again, this doesn't obligate us to any expenses with the water rights. It doesn't obligate us to purchase them. We can still not accept the bids on the temporary note when it comes to that. If we work through the water right purchase and we decide we do not want to go through with it, we would still have time to not accept those bids. But this gives staff the authority to proceed so that if we do, we would have the money before year end. Are there any questions in regard to that?
No. No.
I think your explanation tonight and the packet is pretty clear. I don't have any questions. Greg, do you?
No, do not.
Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion.
I would move to authorize the public sale of certain general obligation bonds and notes of the city of Hutchinson and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second?
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes.
Magers?
Yes.
Goss?
Yes.
Item 8, new business, A, 2024 financial audit.
Angela Richard, Director of Finance. Before you is the 2024 audit. We had an unqualified opinion on our financial statements, which means that they are materially correct. We also had an alternative compliance examination engagement, which is an alternative to a single audit, the OMBA 133 audit for our federal grants. So this is a little bit less intensive and should theoretically be a little bit cheaper to do. And that was a clean opinion as well. I do have Alice Larson here, who was the auditor in charge of our audit, if you have any questions.
Good evening, council. Are there any questions for me? Angela pretty much covered everything that I would have mentioned. We didn't make any material adjustments, well, none adjustments at all, to the financials that were provided by the city team. And I just want to note that single audit threshold is moving from $750,000 to $1 million for 2025 in the future. And so that will determine again whether in 25 and beyond you'll have a single audit, or as long as ARPA funds are still being spent, there is that alternative compliance examination engagement. And in 25 and possibly 26, you will still be spending some of that money. And so as long as any non-ARPA funds are under that $1 million threshold, that alternative compliance would be an option to do instead.
Angela, what projects are still with the ARPA funds?
So mainly the United Way childcare is what is left to be spent, and then the Woody Seat. ARPA money, we'll be spending the rest of that here shortly. So.
So on the United Way funds, even though those have been turned over to another party for distribution, we still are responsible for the audit.
We have not turned over all the money to United Way yet.
Oh, okay.
It's a reimbursement. Largely, there have been a few advances we've made to them,
okay,
but mostly it's reimbursements. So they're still spending that through the end of 2026.
Okay.
And the way you're technically supposed to recognize reimbursements like that is you don't view it as an expenditure until that reimbursement's paid.
Got it.
And so that's why, even though you've basically come to an agreement with them that they will have that money, you don't recognize it when that agreement's made. It's when the money actually moves.
Okay.
You didn't find an extra few million we weren't accounting for? I don't know if that'd be a good look or a bad look.
That would be a bit of a concern if I
All right.
did find that and it was unaccounted for. So.
Any additional questions or jokes from council?
No. I'm out.
No. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak on this item? I am looking for a motion.
No motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, no motion. I was looking down too far.
I think normally we do a motion to accept.
Okay.
Just that you accept the 2024 audit.
I move to accept the audit.
Second.
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes.
Magers?
Yes.
Goss?
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 8B, consider awarding Hayes Site RFP number 25-58 to Garibay Properties LLC.
While Carissa is walking up, I do have a few opening comments for this. One, I do want to thank the council for their courage initially when we went down the pursuit of buying this land. So if you recall, that was before the housing assessment came out. That was before housing was really the flavor of the week. And so we saw what was on the horizon and we took advantage of that fact and said, we're going to make this happen. Housing is important in this community, and so this was our way of demonstrating that we were all in. Secondly, the RFP was made available to local developers and really any developer, period. And so I want that fact to be known that anyone could have bid on this so long as they were qualified. And then finally, I would end with that what we're doing here is essentially a public-private partnership. It's one form of a public-private partnership. It's very common that other municipalities do this, so it's not really out of the norm in that sense. And so I think within that context could help shed some light on this. So thank you.
Good evening, Council. Carissa Paxton, Housing Coordinator. I am very excited to introduce you to Garibay Properties today. We have Enrique and Wesley right here with us tonight. I'm going to give you a brief overview of their proposal. Everything that's on my slides is in their packet, which is in your packet as well. My understanding is it starts on page 260. So Garibay Properties is a hands-on local team that self-performs on construction, site work, landscaping, and in-house realtors for sales. Their goal for this project is to create a safe, attractive, and affordable neighborhood that Hutchinson families are proud to call home. What they're proposing is a 30-unit single-family home subdivision located on the awarded property near 11th and Hayes. They'll be utilizing 9,000 square foot lots and RHID, so these properties won't have special assessments. Their unit mix is really exciting. Ranch styles and two-story homes, 3 2-bed baths, 3 2 to 2.5s, and 4 2 to 2.5s, all ranging between $229,000 and $300,000, which is exactly what we were looking for in the RFP to help us move up into those housings, give us something that somebody who's currently in their first time home, their first home, can sell and then move into something a little bit better for their family and that suits their needs. And that's what the housing needs assessment suggested that we do to help us replace that missing middle housing. I've included here just some basic floor plans so we can see those on the big screen here instead of just in your packets. So here's one elevation for one of the two-story options and their floor plan there off to the side. And then one of the single-family homes, elevation and floor plan as well. And then just a snippet of their timeline. So they're hoping, or their plan is to be complete within 3 years. 8 homes in the first year, around 10 in the second, and then 12 in the third. And then with families being able to move in as soon as the homes are constructed. So no waiting until the project's done. We'll have families moving in every year. So that being said, I'm happy to stand for questions, but then so are the Garibays as well. So thank you.
I have a question on the floor plans, if you could go back one. So will all of these floor plans have a step up? They will not be zero entry homes?
Our goal is to have some, sorry, I'm Wesley with Garibay Properties. Our goal is to have some zero entry options as well. This was just more of a, just kind of an image or a general elevation plan. But
okay.
Yeah, our goal is to have zero entry options.
Okay, thank you.
Now, if I remember right, this is the plot on 11th Street, am I right? Okay. And how many houses, go back to say how many houses are going to put in that area?
30.
Cool. Okay. And when you starting on this? We have to go through the process, I know.
Yeah,
All right.
so our next phase will be, assuming approval, will be to enter into a development agreement with them.
Gotcha.
And so once we have all of those details lined out, who's doing what, who's responsible for what and when,
Okay.
then we can get started.
See how excited I am about it get going, yeah. All right.
I have a question about the sidewalks. I read in here that the sidewalks will be on one side of the street. Will the sidewalks be on the side with the homes? On what street is that runs through?
Yep, feel free.
So in our conversations with the city here a few weeks ago, I think on the section, the cul-de-sac section would have sidewalks on both sides of the street. We talked about obviously sidewalks on the side of the I think is that Hayes? No, it's not Hayes. The north or I guess it'd be east-west. The house side of that would have sidewalks. We're not sure. It would be a discussion with the city on if there'd be sidewalks on that property, adjoining property there to the parcel.
The one that would be running along the side of the homes?
Correct.
Give the pointer, okay.
So, yeah,
Okay.
sidewalks here.
Yes.
Not sure if we would have them here.
Yes. Okay. And then the size of the detention basin, this will require a water study, right, during plating? A runoff study?
I can speak to that. Matt Williams, Community Development. So yeah, the next step would be entering into a development agreement with them, getting the RHID planned out. But then the whole property would need to be platted, that this group would plat with, city oversight. And because it's over an acre, that would include a drainage study. That would all be taken into account during platting.
And so there's a chance that that drainage ditch grows or shrinks based on the drainage study?
Potentially. This initial concept was put together by one of our engineers, JEO. So I assume they probably did a high level concept of it, but it's not super detailed.
Okay.
So question, reading about your company, so you guys basically do a complete turnkey job from basically the concrete, dirt work, landscape, house, everything, correct?
Correct. So one division of our company does all the site work stuff. So we do water mains, sewer mains, stormwater, all of that infrastructure, all the sidewalks, paving, all of that stuff. Another portion of our company does new construction builds. Another portion of our company does landscaping, and then we have in-house realtors as well.
Yeah, because it looked like it was a complete turnkey job from start to finish, so.
Correct.
So that probably makes things move along a little bit faster as well.
Correct, and it also helps with the cost effectiveness. We can obviously spread the money out across the board and not make a bunch of money in one spot. We can kind of help reduce the cost overall.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions from council?
No.
One of the remarks that I saw about this was, why are we not focusing, this is a question for you, Carissa, more of a theoretical question. Why are we not focusing on low-income housing and housing that would benefit people who can't afford a $229,000 home? Can you speak to how this fits in line with our housing assessment and why this is just one thing that we're using?
Certainly. So something that we learned from our housing needs assessment is that we have a overabundance of what they called naturally existing affordable housing. When you look at county appraisal values and residential real estate sales, you see that we have ample amount of homes that sell for $115,000 or less or are valued at that. But because we don't have available housing, we haven't been constructing housing for people who make $75,000 as a household and up, those people are living in those more affordable units. They can't afford them. They can afford more than that. And so in 2020, we were paying a lot more for housing than maybe what it was worth, but that's because you had the resources to do that. You could afford to pay more for a house that maybe was worth less. Those people very well may not be happy in the homes that they're in. In fact, some of the survey data said that. And that if we had the homes that were affordable for their income level, they would be happy to move and free up those units that are naturally existing and affordable. But because we don't have, we have a shortage of units that are between $200,000 and $350,000. People are stuck in homes that they're not happy with, or worse, they're finding those homes in our neighboring communities and counties, and then they're leaving Reno County altogether. So providing this housing allows them to step up into a home that is still affordable for them, that meets their needs better, and then free up that housing for somebody who would love to be a first-time home buyer. But we just don't have, that market is really competitive right now because that's all that there is. So,
Thank you. Any additional questions from council? Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll move to award the Hayes site RFP number 25-58 to Garibay Properties LLC.
I'll second.
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes.
Magers?
Yes.
Goss?
Yes.
Item 8C,
Thank you.
Thank you. Look forward to working with the city.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Fairgrounds Park Playground Equipment Replacement.
Good evening, Justin Combs, Director of Parks and Facilities. So this is a repeat of the presentation I gave 2 weeks ago with just an updated price. So I am going to go fairly quick through the presentation. Please stop me if you have any questions, and we'll get to the price there at the end of the presentation. So this is the existing playground. I went through several slides about current conditions of the plastic components and some of the safety issues we're seeing with this playground. Also, we talked about some of the decking, how we're starting to see the rust that will just continue to deteriorate over time. We also have elements we've had to remove, and then some support rails that are out of, showing significant rust, more cracking, and then we have a playground or a swing set that is no longer compliant with current standards. I do want to stop here just for a minute. So we did, when we did our community engagement, just to remind you what we heard, was that the community was looking for playgrounds for younger children. So in the playground world, that's ages 2 to 5. They're also looking for a more traditional post and deck system. Like I said last time, that makes sense because for younger kids, the social play is really important. And so having those decks where they can come up with their own games, make pretend, those sorts of things, is really important for the younger age group. They also asked for more shade, more seating, and then the big one was the pour-and-play safety surfacing. So this is the same equipment I showed last week. We should show it in 2 different color options, but a primary structure in the middle within 3 kind of independent pieces along the perimeter, as well as a new swing that would have a traditional lap swing on the right, and then a buddy swing on the left, which is for an adult and a tot, or a larger child and a tot, where you can swing face to face. And here's just a top-down view that shows how the playground fits in our current area and current sidewalk that surrounds it, so it does fill the entire space. And then there are 2 benches that are also included, as well as a shade structure that goes over the primary structure in the main playground. So I know that was really fast, but I wanted to get to this slide. So I'm sure you all noticed there was about a little over a $20,000 reduction in price. So after our conversation 2 weeks ago, I went back to our vendor and asked about the installation price. And what I found out is they'd included some site work in there, about $20,000 worth of site work, that as we talked through what that actually was, realized we could self-perform that. So essentially it was some additional excavating, hauling in AB3 or crushed rock, and then compaction of that, so in preparation for the pour-and-play surface. After we kind of looked at what their specs were, we felt very comfortable we can do that with in-house crews. And so the $6,000 that I'm showing now for the supervised installation is truly just the installation. or supervise installation of the play equipment. So it's just that piece, and then all the site work we'll do in-house. I do want to say we will have a cost in purchasing the rock. I haven't priced it out. I promise you it's not $20,000 worth of rock. There's probably a few $1,000s worth of rock there. So there will be a little bit of additional cost. It does not change the grant. There at the bottom, the grant value is based on the purchase price of the equipment, so we're still receiving that $25,000 grant. But that does bring the total then down to $141,183 and 19 cents. So will stand for any questions. I know that was quick, so please let me know if you have questions.
I appreciate you going through this exercise. I think for me, the issue was just coming in on budget, and I know it's still probably going to be right at the 150 budgeted amount. So, I mean, I'm not silly enough to think that it doesn't cost the city something to do it differently, but thank you for indulging me, and I apologize for what we did. We caused you more work, but I think we're all just trying to be sure that we're on budget. We're trying to get the stuff that we want. That's just my thoughts. I don't know if the others have thoughts, but.
I agree. I was fully prepared to fight with you all about this, so I'm glad that this worked out. I can't stress enough how important the poured-in-place surfacing is. In our playgrounds, it truly makes it accessible to children of all abilities and adults of all abilities, for that matter. So, and I know that we are getting one heck of a sweet deal on the surfacing. Other bids for this project for the surfacing alone were over $300,000, based on your.
The surfacing was 150.
Was 150, which would have made
the playground.
Yeah.
Piece, and we were closer to that 300.
Yeah, so that it's such an important component. So I'm really glad that this is working out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I move to approve if I have to be the one to sign it?
Aren't you the mayor?
Well, yeah.
You can authorize yourself to approve it.
Okay. I move to approve the purchase of new game time playground equipment from Cunningham Recreation for Fairground Park for $141,183.19 and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second that.
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes.
Magers?
Yes.
Goss?
Yes, and we are going to take a recess here for, 10 minutes?
Sure.
We'll do 10-minute recess.
Thank you.
Sorry.
you can just go ahead.
All right. Good evening, Justin Combs, Director of Parks and Facilities. So this item is for design services for a free-range cat room at the animal shelter, paid for by proceeds from the Gossage Trust. It's a trust that was left to the city specifically for the animal shelter. On August 12th, we met with the Gossage Trust Board and pitched the idea of a free-range cat room in using current proceeds, so proceeds that we already have in a project account to pay for the design services, and which they approved that, and then also they were supportive of if we get to the point of construction, using proceeds from that trust to pay for the actual construction of the addition. Obviously, we didn't have all the details at that meeting, final price, all of that, but overall, they were supportive of the idea. I mean, that's why the trust exists, is to support the animal shelter. So before we go any further, I'm going to have Michaela explain what a free-range cat room is and why it's important.
My name is Michaela. I'm the Director of Animal Services for the city. So I oversee animal control as well as our animal shelter. And I appreciate being here tonight. I know I've met with you all before once on this project. Just as a general reminder, a free-range cat room is exactly what it sounds like. It's a way of housing cats, not in boxes and cages. It allows them to be free range in an open space so they can ultimately socialize with each other. We see more natural cat behaviors. It reduces stress. When you reduce stress in your cats, it reduces sickness and disease. Another benefit to this is public perception. It increases your adoption rates when individuals can come into an open space room and sit down on a couch and pet cats or see the animals in their more natural environment than in a confined box where they're scared or timid or trying to hide. It also allows people to see the individual's cat personality, how they interact with other pets in the home, how they interact and climb on furniture or if they hide. So these are all very positive, proactive things that we see in free-range cat rooms. They're often called a variety of real-life rooms, open-range rooms, cage-free rooms. And we had put together a proposal for building an addition onto our shelter that would have 2 of these free-range cat rooms. And those free-range cat rooms ideally would also have maybe some outside fresh air space, like a catio or sunroom. And that's what the goal of this project was. And it can also offer operational benefits. It reduces the amount of time it takes to clean. If you can imagine having 10 cats in one room, that you're sanitizing a room instead of 10 individual kennels, litter boxes, and all the individual things that come with kennels. And like I said, socialization and public perception. We always, of course, want to promote more adoption and humane live release outcomes for our cats, as well as our dogs. But here at the Hutchinson Animal Shelter, we take in between 2,500 and 3,000 animals a year, and a good about 49% of our intake every year are cats. And a lot of people don't realize the number of cats coming through our shelter. And this would not be increasing the number of cats we would be housing. It would increase the welfare and the lifestyle and the health of the cats while they are in our care. So this is not adding on space to take in and house and hoard more cats. It just creates a much healthier social environment and better humane animal care while they're with us. Any questions that I can help answer?
So you will still have space that is for quarantining and for intake and for isolation when necessary, right?
Absolutely. So there are some circumstances. Our current adoption room, which we don't have photos in here of that, they're double-sided kennels with 2 kind of cubby hole areas. That will still exist in our shelter, and it needs to still exist. Not all cats are social with other cats, and not all cats like free room space. Some cats, particularly the older senior cats that might come into our care, they want a calmer, quieter personal space. So we will continue to use that. We have our own isolation space in our shelter for sick and upper respiratory cats. So this would be additional ways of housing, but not reducing anything else that we're currently doing. Okay. And these photos here are not exactly of our design or what the interior would look like. They're just examples to show what a free-range cat room is usually designed as, or what they look like. They're usually very colorful. They're more enjoyable, comfortable spaces, chairs, soft fabrics, lots of climbing. So those are just images that represent the end goal.
So 2 weeks ago, we received RFPs, or received proposals for design services, and we received 3. So one from WDM, from LK Architecture, and then from Landmark Architecture. So how we evaluated the proposals were based on qualifications of the firm as a whole, also individual team members, their experience, references or comparable projects, ability to meet timeline, and then also just their overall understanding and ability to meet the needs of the project. Our selection team went Michaela, Angela, who's finance director, but is also on the Gossage Trust board, Nicole Martinez, Joshua Changa, and myself. All 5 of us did, as we started the meeting, after we reviewed the proposals, we all 5 gravitated towards WDM architecture for a couple of reasons. First, just their first impression when they showed up to do the tour. They brought 3 architects as well as 2 engineers from engineering consultants who's here locally to walk through the building. They really were engaged, asked a lot of questions, and that came through in their proposal. They did provide a concept design in their proposal, which is way above and beyond. It's something we never asked for concepts. So they went ahead and provided that, and it was really right in line with what we were talking about, what we'd asked them to do. And they just included that in their proposal from day one. And then also, they had several successful projects in the region, so Kansas Humane Society in Wichita, the Wichita Animal Shelter, Wellington, as well as Newton, all local kind of regional facilities. So this is the conceptual drawing they came up with. So just to kind of orientate you, this is the main parking lot. This is the existing education center, so the main entrance is just off the screen here. So what we're proposing is an addition at the end of the parking lot. So we have a cat room here, and another room here, and then a kitchen or commissary area in the middle, and then a vestibule. And then they show mechanical rooms, a mechanical room over here on the side as well. So one thing we did not ask them to do, but they went ahead and did it anyway, because it did come up in our conversation, is they included 2 outdoor spaces. So these patios, or catios, I guess, they're outdoor spaces for cats, and we'll show you what that looks like. So not only did they do a concept, they also did a 3D rendering, which is what we're looking at here. So part of the proposals, we did ask them to match materials, so it didn't look like an addition, so we don't have something that really stands out. So that would be the front of it. Here you see a little bit better of those catios, those outdoor areas here where they're using these pillars, essentially just fencing them in, so there's some outdoor space on nice days. We can move cats to the outside. And just a close-up of what that could look like. So it is our recommendation to proceed with WD Architecture for design and construction services. Total cost $24,350. That does include, of that $24,000, there's $4,910 worth of construction services, construction administration services. So the design only is $19,400. Then the balance of that is, once we get into construction, we're going to want an architect on board to make sure it's being built properly. And if we have questions, if the contractor has questions. So we'll only assume the additional, essentially $5,000 once we're under construction. You almost always use the same consultant for the design as you do for construction services. So they included it in the proposal, so I included it there. Again, and just to reiterate, the financing of this is 100% through the Gossage Trust. So we have funding available now for the design piece. And then once we get into construction, then we'll talk about what bonding that looks like, what the bond payments would look like from the Gossage Trust. So this would be using cash on hand already from the Gossage Trust.
And so all bond payments will be from the Gossage Trust, including all interest. Nothing would be from the city, period.
That's the intent, yes. Yep. Until we have construction costs and we can have those conversations, but our intent is to be 100% from the Gossage Trust. And we had that conversation back in August with them. So before we got to this point, I wanted to make sure the board was comfortable, and we kind of estimated what those bond payments would look like. We're currently paying bond payments for the existing Gossage education room. Those bond payments are going to roll off here real soon, 26, I think. 28, okay. So in 28, those bond payments will roll off. And so there may be a little bit of an overlap for a year or so that we're paying both, or maybe we wait until 28. So we'll just have to present that to the Gossage Trust Board to see what those payments look like.
And it's their preference to bond this instead of paying cash for the project?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Because we would earn more interest in the trust than we would.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
And I didn't see a comparison of the bids in
Yeah.
the packet.
Yep. So I did not put the dollar amounts in there, but I'm happy to share those. LK Architecture was $18,500, so just slightly cheaper. Landmark gave us a percent, so they were at 7.5% of construction cost. So it does make them a little bit lower, yet, but not knowing what the construction price is, that could vary one way or the other. In our evaluation criteria, we did not list price as a determining factor. We really wanted a qualifications base. I mean, we do enough work with architects to know that sometimes it's worth paying a little bit extra to have a good design up front. It saves you construction headaches down the road. So, they're within a few $1,000s of each other. And so to me, they're pretty comparable price-wise.
And this project had originally been included in the 2026 budget, correct? At $150,000.
Yeah, and as we got into it, I'm not sure the $150,000 is going to be enough. So we had that conversation with the Gossage Trust Board, and they were comfortable with, I think we're going to be closer to the 200, 225 number for construction.
And was there a separate project? I'm trying to remember our presentations back from April. Was there a separate project for your parking lot? Or was that that for this year, though?
That was in this year's.
That's in this year. We budgeted through our donation accounts. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And so will the parking lot project also be moving forward?
Yeah, our design is not meeting our budget at this point for the parking lot, so we're still working through that design. But the intent is to improve the parking lot as well. So.
Okay.
Is Park Crews doing any work on this?
Once we got into construction, this would be a small enough space. We could definitely look at doing all the trade work. So, plumbing, electrical, and HVAC.
Good.
Does this tie into the other buildings' HVAC, or is it separate?
It would be a new system, yeah. Yep. And we haven't gone down looking at electrical capacity and water capacity and all that yet. We'll get through that in design. So.
And so would the Gossage Trust pay the city to do the work, or would it be an in-kind service?
Yeah.
I think that's a fair question. And I would also mention that we do have a local preference on when we let bids. I don't want to upset the apple cart here, because you guys have said you're very comfortable with this and you felt like you got a lot for the money, and we don't know what the construction costs are.
Yeah.
So I just think we need to be mindful of that if we're going to manage a project, even for somebody else, of what it might look like. That's all.
Understood.
Do we have a local preference?
I mean, the city also reserves the right to accept any and all, or reject any and all.
Mm-hmm.
And this was purely a qualifications-based RFP, so.
I thought our local preference had gone away.
No, we still have it. I've looked it up within the last year on another issue, and we certainly have that.
Any additional questions from council? Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion.
I'd move to approve the agreement between the city and WDM Architects PA for the Hutchinson Animal Shelter Free Range Cat Rooms addition and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Richardson,
Yes.
Garza,
Yes.
Bass,
Yes.
Magers.
Yes.
Goff.
Yes.
I have one more.
I'm so sorry. You asked me a question about would this edition have separate
HVAC.
HVAC. I just wanted to add that best practice standards would encourage it to be separate because we're medically inclined with cats. Upper respiratory issues is the #1 sickness that shelters face, and you want individual HVAC and filtered systems per zone or section is the ideal. Our shelter does not have, we have some sections that are zoned correctly like that and some that aren't. And so when we move forward with an addition, hopefully we would want to be following the best practice, which would be separate.
Because these cats would all be like leukemia free and
Yes.
pneumonia free. And
Yep. Yep. So I just wanted to add to, that's in part why we would want that.
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Item 8E, consider approval of an ordinance establishing Parks and Forestry Board and repealing Article 2 of Chapter 11 of the Hutchinson City Code and authorize the mayor to sign.
Good evening again. I made a presentation, it's been several months ago, about the idea of a Parks and Forestry Advisory Board. So now we're bringing back the actual ordinance. So some of these slides are a repeat of my previous presentation. I'm not going to go through all these, but there's a lot of communities throughout the state that have these types of advisory boards. You can see the list there on the screen. Primary duties of the board, really kind of the big one is just to advocate for parks and recreational opportunities throughout our community, to recommend and advise the parks director as well as city council on capital improvement projects, make recommendations about land usage, including recommendations if we ever add or subtract land from our park system. Then make recommendations for new park regulations or park rules, kind of administrative regulations, help work on strategies to engage residents for community engagement on park-related matters, and then also just functionally they would have to develop their own bylaws and kind of a structure for how they operate as a board. So those are the primary duties. Board makeup, five voting members approved by City Council, 3-year terms, and then they're eligible to be reappointed for 1 term after their first, so 6 years. They do have to take a year break and then could come back on the board after a year. There's also 2 ex officio non-voting members, Friends of the Zoo and Art Design Council. I know there's going to be some questions about that. We can address those towards the end of the presentation. Also, then we would elect a chair and vice chair every year, and those can be repeated if the chair wants to continue to serve. Qualifications: a strong interest in parks, trails, and forestry, resident of the city of Hutchinson, and then an active user. We want somebody who's engaged in our park system, not just somebody who watches from afar, but somebody who's really engaged in the system. Meetings would be monthly. I've not determined date and times yet of those. I'm kind of leaning towards afternoon or evenings. Once we start getting some applications, then we can have those conversations about what days of the week and meeting times work for folks. Also, we can develop additional subcommittees. Park staff will prepare meeting agendas in collaboration with the chairperson, and then park staff will do all of the meeting minutes. So subcommittees can be formed by a majority vote of the board. And really the intent there is if we have a specific task we want to research or something that goes beyond what the board wants to handle in monthly meetings, we can create a subcommittee. Then there's some language there about some of the rules, but essentially they don't have any authority to act on behalf. They're really just kind of doing some research or making recommendations to the larger board. They would be required to do an annual report, so once a year, at least once a year, you would hear from them with a report. And there's also an expectation then that they're in constant contact with me as we work through different items. As part of this, we would also repeal Section 2 of Article 11 of the City Code, which is, Article 11 is the tree and shrubs ordinance. Section 2 is what creates the tree board. So you can see all the headline, or all the titles there of what's in that section. But essentially, this new board would replace that. And so the Parks and Forestry Board would still make recommendations on urban forestry, those sorts of things, similar to what the tree board does now. They would just take on the additional responsibility of parks. So it is my recommendation to proceed with the ordinance creating the Parks and Forestry Advisory Board and then repealing Article 2 of Chapter 11 and authorizing the mayor to sign. So I do want to address the issue, I know it's been brought up, about the ex officio members and who's on that and who's not on that. So the reason why I chose Friends of the Zoo and Art Design Council as ex officio members is both of those organizations exist because of the city. So Friends of the Zoo only exists because we have a zoo. Their sole purpose is to support the Hutchinson Zoo. Art Design Council, the only reason they exist is because we have a 1% for public art ordinance. They are created by that ordinance. There are several other partner organizations that I did consider. So HUTREC, USD 308, Hutchinson Community College, Boys and Girls Club. So those are all organizations we have a relationship with, that we lease facilities or have operating agreements with. But my logic and my justification for not including them in this is we're going to ask the advisory board to make decisions that could impact negatively or positively one of these partners organizations. So for example, we could be asking the advisory board to make recommendations on capital improvement projects that could maybe not fall in line with what USD 308 wants or the community college or HUTREC. And so that was my justification for leaving them off, was just to reduce the chances of some bias on that board. Obviously, it's an open public meeting. Anybody can be there and can voice their opinion. So I'm open to suggestions and other ideas about the ex officio members, but I just wanted to get my thoughts through on why they were left out. And it was intentional because of those reasons, not for any other reason. But there was thought put into why the two are there and no other of our community partners.
What about people that serve on boards for those other organizations?
Yeah, I think they could serve as regular board members. I guess they could go through, but I still don't like the idea of having somebody who's on a board of a partner organization that could benefit from a decision they're making on a board that's advising us on things. That, I know that's a weird answer.
Those boards are also appointed by us, so it
yeah.
would feel like, I can see it both ways, but if we were to put a HUTREC board member on as ex officio, then they would be serving on they would have two appointments. When I don't think we have any other.
They'd be a non-voting member on this board, though.
Who would be a non-voting member.
And that doesn't stop people from going to the board meetings and weighing in anyway.
Right.
Correct, yeah. Yeah, I was just trying to reduce the bias that, if there is a board member from one of those partner organizations, my expectation is they're going to advocate very, very hard for that organization. And is that what we want in this advisory board as a member of the board, to have that level of advocacy? Or is that better suited for just them coming to a meeting and advocating? When we have discussions about CIP projects and what we're going to recommend to city council, those will be open public meetings. They can advocate at that point. So was my logic for it.
I know you didn't even mention the YMCA. That would be, it's like word is.
Yeah, that would be another one.
Well, and I
Yep.
called David Foster from the YMCA and I asked him about this and asked, would this be something that you would be interested in if we had an ex officio seat And would you prefer it be a board member or a staff member? And he said a staff member because staff's going to know more of the day-to-day logistics of who needs what fields and how things are used by their organization. I mean, like you said, it doesn't stop anybody from attending a meeting, voicing an opinion, reaching out to those board members.
Yeah, I mean, we could do, as part of the standard agenda, have an agenda place for partner organizations. So anybody that's in attendance, if there is somebody from the Y or from the college that wants to speak, we could have a standing space in the agenda that they would have an opportunity to speak. I mean, we'd probably have open comments anyways, but that would give them for sure a shot if they wanted to speak.
On the makeup of the board members, creation of the board, these would all be essentially at large, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Do you see any value in them serving from the areas, the same districts as we serve from?
I do see some value in it, and I didn't pull all of the other communities. I know some communities do that. I know Wichita does that, and I think there are a few others. I chose not to for simplicity's sake, but I definitely think it's something worth considering.
I think it should be something on the application, so they can be taken into consideration. No, but it's still, if there's multiple people applying, the city council can take that into consideration on who they.
Well, and Stacy, I appreciate you bringing it up. I hadn't thought of that, but it would be our job as council members in certain districts to help create this with representation maybe from our own districts.
Right.
Encourage that.
If the equal representation isn't built into the original ordinance, then there is no guarantee that it will be adhered to in the future. And there is no guarantee that anybody from the south side will be.
I understand that, and I agree with you, but I also understand that we're having trouble getting people serving on these boards to begin with. So if we maybe make that a narrow lane, we might not have somebody serving that we would want because, you know what I mean? Like.
No, I get it.
I don't know. I think, well, I don't know if you want discussion or not. I think for me, I'm going to trust staff on this one and we'll go forward.
I would like to see a change that includes it being 5 members appointed by the council with matching our same districts.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm with you, Greg. I just don't want to see it discourage people from applying based off of that either. I mean, like, how many do we have applying now for boards and committees? It's pretty limited now already, isn't it? Correct?
Yeah.
So we don't want to narrow that. We don't want to narrow.
No, and I want you to know I'm struggling internally with this whole thing that you brought up because we do want representation in all districts.
But I do agree with you, Stacy, too, that we do.
I think that the challenge is this is a board that predicates on your experience in parks, and that's really broad. Whereas Landmark Commission,
yeah, that's true.
the other, I can't think of all of our boards right now. Planning and zoning, those require some
housing,
expertise, or at least a certain level of being able to analyze different things than park equipment and how are parks used. That's a lot easier for people to grasp. I feel like there's less barrier for entry on this board. I think it's one of those things that we could always change it, but if we make it restrictive to start, and we guarantee representation from all districts to start with, and it doesn't work out, we can always loosen it up.
Yeah, what do you think, Justin?
Yeah, I mean, really this first group is going to be one of the most important because they're going to set bylaws, so this first group of 5. So I do see value in making sure we're really intentional about making sure we have all corners of the community represented.
Okay.
I do wonder if there's a way we can write some language that would make, maybe there's a preference for one from each district, but if there are not quality or applicants are qualified in a district, that we don't have to follow that. So we try to, but if we don't have somebody from a certain district, then we're not asking the questions, well, now what do? We only have 4 members, but we give ourselves an out in the ordinance that says, that's a question for Paul. I'm getting a dirty look, so I don't know if that's.
Well, and I'm certain I can find somebody, so I don't want this to hold things up. I think to your point, we started out with these intentions that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think asking somebody to be on a parks board is a lot different ask than asking them to be on planning and zoning or to run for council or for these other things. I think this is a lot more. I've been on 2 parks boards in 2 different municipalities, and they're fun, and you get to do a lot of things that give you more immediate gratification than changing code, which is really not exciting for most people.
Can we give ourselves an out?
Council, don't handcuff yourselves here, please. You get to control who goes on this Parks and Forestry Board. If you want to spread them around the city from the applicants, just do it.
Well, yeah, but we're trying to start this out
Well,
right.
yeah, and in the process, you're going to handcuff yourself. What if you don't have them from each district? Or
We
one
don't
at
if we
large?
have language in there that we can
That
do
are
what we
truly
want anyway.
qualified for the Park and Forestry Board.
Say again?
You're looking for qualifications, not necessarily location. If you want to handcuff yourselves, go ahead.
Anything they recommend is going to come to the city council for approval, which is a representative from all 4 corners.
Not necessarily. Justin does have authority to make his own administrative regulations.
Dang it,
And they would
Justin.
advise him on those.
Wow.
Yeah. So we oversee the city manager who oversees Justin.
Oh.
That's a big bingo. So
Uno reverse.
You can't get too carried away.
I've never
It
made.
actually says in our charter ordinance that we can't interfere with hiring and firing of employees, though.
I will say, I've only made 2 administrative regulations, and they've all come from this podium, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were good ones, and they've worked really well.
Yeah, I'm not worried about you going rogue.
Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak on this item?
Nope.
Any additional questions or remarks from council?
I've been prepared to make a motion.
I would really like to make the motion, if that's okay.
That's fine. I want to leave it alone based on council's advice. Go ahead.
Thank you. I move to approve an ordinance establishing Parks and Forestry Board and repealing Article 2 of Chapter 11 of the Hutchinson City Code and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes.
Magers?
Yes.
Goss?
Yes.
Item number 8F, Reno County Economic Development Strategic Plan Update.
Good evening, council, and mayor and council. Deborah Tufel with the Hutchinson Reno County Chamber of Commerce. It just occurred to me that Amy Holloway has been waiting in the wings, but she's going to need a signal to dial in because she thought she might dial in at 7. I may need to step away from the podium and make sure that she's still hanging in there, or I don't know if she's in a waiting room. Will your IT folks know?
Yeah, so
Okay.
we've had the Zoom going for a while, but
Okay.
nobody's joined it.
Ah.
Yeah, she's still not been here.
Okay.
I sent you the link at 4:55 when she asked for it.
Okay.
So you might need to text her.
Okay, I'm going to get a hold of her, and then I'll come back to the podium if you don't mind.
We'll just sing Chief happy birthday in the meantime.
It's your birthday?
Yeah, what better thing to do is spend her here with you.
I think it's still a public meeting, or I'd ask where the party was. Don't answer. Don't answer.
Okay, they sent the Zoom link to her.
Oh, they did?
Yes.
I was just double checking my email. The problem is, it's my wife's birthday too today. So.
What? Is it?
That's cool.
Yeah, so it's a double whammy.
Nothing she likes better than for having you here with us tonight.
I won't ask who's older, we'll just leave it there.
She's better looking, so.
But I know that Mary Lynn has control of this, so if she does join, you want her to speak? Or as well? Okay. Yeah. Mary Lynn says she hasn't seen anyone try to join at all in the last 2 hours.
I'm not sure either, but
Yeah,
if she
sorry.
doesn't, will you be watching from back there if she happens to? And then
if
otherwise
she
I'll
happens-
just,
If she
yeah.
happens to join, what she'll do is she'll unmute her. So you might see the computer like screen turn.
Okay, will I be able to advance slides for now?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
go down here.
Okay.
You should be able to control it from there.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I'll get us started, and if Amy joins us, all the better. So about a year ago, we started talking about the need for our city and county and all of the economic development partners that do work in this team sport we call economic development to align in a new economic development strategic plan for the next 5 years, and you all agreed to invest in that. So in January, we issued an RFP. AHA, Amy Holloway Advisors, was selected from a group of several different consultants that we interviewed. Some of you were on the advisory group that helped interview and select her. And Amy does work all over the country. She's worked with over 200 communities, some like ours, some much larger. And she's very selective about who she does choose to work with. So I think it's a great compliment to Hutchinson and Reno County that she saw such promise in the work that we're doing that she wanted to put her stamp of approval on the work we're doing and really take a deep dive into learning about us, listening, doing a lot of focus groups, and then providing some recommendations. So this is a really quick summary. And, oh, she's in the room. Wonderful. Okay, did I just click off? Did you admit her? Okay. She was actually speaking at another conference today, got to her hotel, and now she's been in the waiting room or been waiting on us in a hotel room somewhere, probably somewhere out in the Carolinas. Hello, Amy, can you hear us?
Are you able to hear us, Amy? Oh, I gotta unmute my computer. Can you hear us now, Amy? Yes, okay, now I need to make sure that I turn your audio on, so 1 second.
Okay, so while he's getting that queued up, as I was saying, so we selected Amy. She began the work here in May with some kickoff meetings and started working with our advisory group, which was made up of partners from the city, Reno County, several communities around Reno County, our Economic Development Advisory Council, and funding partners, which included the Hutchinson Community Foundation, Startup Hutch, Greater Hutch, and of course yourselves, and South Hutch as well. So this is the advisory group that helped guide the work, but definitely they were not the only voices that informed the work. Amy met with over 350 folks through focus groups, surveys, and other mechanisms. And so with that, Amy, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. I can't see the video on your end, so I'm just kind of going to talk to myself, but wish I were there in person. And thanks for having me this evening. I'm looking forward to presenting the final recommendations in the Elevate strategy. It sounds like Deborah went through the thanks to our funding partners and our advisory group, and I think many of you are already aware of the process that we've gone through. Whoever's clicking, that would be slide 3. Like Deborah said, we started this process back in May and wrapping it up here in, oh, there we go. Thank you. That's so much better. Yeah, wrapping it up here in October. I also share on the next slide, a few of the themes that came out in our research, just real quick, because I know that y'all have had a long meeting already, but there's clearly an opportunity to further elevate your economic performance. We've seen some loss across population and jobs over the last few years, and there's a real, I think, hunger in the community to do economic development and turn those trends into positives. Also, obviously, talent pipeline is critical. Housing is a topic that came up over and over again. We've got some lower wages there in the county than some of the benchmark communities, which is causing some of the strain on housing. But overall, I saw real positive energy around the community about investing in economic development and taking us all to the next level. I think that Deborah has talked to you also about the cluster approach that we're recommending. Here's the target industry clusters that are included in the strategy. The ones in red are what I would consider to be kind of traditional business attraction targets and the niche segments within each. There's also some entrepreneurship targets and targets of our business retention and expansion efforts. And those things would include making sure that we're still expanding our healthcare offerings, destination retail, and other fun stuff for families. And we're going to do this as a whole community. So this isn't just about Greater Hutch going out and attracting every company they can into the community. This is about creating an environment where these industries want to be, because we've invested in their supply chain and R&D and startup support and talent, policies and infrastructure, and all of those things that make a region competitive for these clusters. So consider that as you're making decisions as leaders in the community. Think about the needs of those industries as you're making decisions about new policies or incentives or infrastructure investments. So yeah, getting into the strategic plan, I just want to hone in on a couple of the goals. But this image illustrates the plan as a whole. It's your one-page guide to the Elevate strategy. I joke, and I'm kind of not joking, but I joke that it would be nice if everyone had an image of this, maybe a postcard or something of this on their desk, and they touch base with this anytime they're making their own operational plans or making a decision. These are our holistic goals, countywide goals for economic development and our vision, as well as some guidance on what we're going to do to implement this plan and make sure that it stays going. I'd like to emphasize real quick the middle of that graphic, in the middle of the star. It's how we're going to do work going forward. And I think there's a real commitment from the partners who were involved to continue to elevate and promote the many strengths that we have. We're going to do this in a way that's very collaborative and aligned. We're going to work together, and we're going to confidently invest in the community. So keep that in mind, a little inspiration for your evening. So there's 5 goals in this strategy, and I'm just going to touch on a few of them. I think what you'll see through these goals is that it reinforces a number of the city's goals. I want to start by saying that I've been in communication with the city's consultants out of Wichita State, and we've been comparing notes along the way, and a good note for you all to know is that we've reached many of the same conclusions. So we're quite aligned in that, and I think you'll see that throughout this. So the first goal is economic development oriented in more of a traditional way. We're aiming to create higher wage jobs and quality investment. There's 3 priorities within this: expanding the jobs that we have and making sure that we're helping our employers generate higher wage jobs. We're also attracting new investment into our community, and then embracing that cluster building approach. And you can see the sample actions from the strategy there below. Within the strategy itself, it gets down into the tactics. In fact, even for each tactic, we're offering the names of the organizations that would take a lead role, as well as the timing for each action. So just because it's just a checklist on the screen, know that there's more content in the strategy itself. One thing that I want to point out here that is that you're not going to be able to do this work without really committing to investing in your economic development effort. And that might mean expanding your economic development team so that you can reach out even further. Second goal is around talent pipeline. You can see the recommendations here. You cannot have a thriving economy without also having a robust talent pipeline. So this goal focuses on upskilling the workers that we have. It focuses on uplifting those individuals who are living at or below that ALICE threshold, kind of our working poor in the community, who are, they're struggling in a lot of ways. And there's a number of approaches that we could take to really hone in on that population and make sure that they're getting in the workforce and accessing higher wage career opportunities. And then finally, continuing to attract and retain skilled workers in the community, really having a deliberate talent attraction campaign over the next 5 years will be very helpful. The third goal is focused on our entrepreneurial ecosystem, that third leg of our economic development stool, if you will. These priorities fall in line with Startup Hutch's strategic priorities. They just finished a strategy within the last year. I think I wanted to make sure that the strategy here for the county reflected their priorities and really highlight the recommendations in their own strategy that tie directly into our countywide entrepreneurial efforts and countywide economic development strategy. So you'll see the list there. Goal number 4, modern sites and infrastructure. I know over the last few years now, you all have identified and gotten options on some great sites. You've invested some in those sites and preparing them for investment. I'm going to encourage you to continue to invest in sites and infrastructure. We need to get ahead of the skate to where the puck is going to go, essentially. So just because we have a couple of sites, at the rate that you're going and with all the assets that you have, I feel pretty confident that you're going to have a lot of interest in those sites. And just as companies are locating on those sites, you're going to need more. So please continue to invest in that. Really focus on expanding and strengthening your water infrastructure in particular. And there you'll see the third priority within this goal. I'm going to call them out, but there is a whole lot of potential there at the Hutchinson Regional Airport for not just providing sites for future business investment, but also as almost a community marketing tool. Making sure that they've got really modern facilities and expanded facilities that we can accommodate more private and corporate jets. Having people land there and get exposed to the community through that's going to be a tremendous asset, and that's kind of your target audience in a lot of ways, as decision makers coming into the community on aircraft. And finally, this isn't a final. These goals are all 5 of them are as important as the others, so don't take that as an indication of quality of life being last on the list. In fact, I think it's the bow that kind of ties all of this together. So quality of life recommendations include things like making sure that we've got we continue to invest in quality housing options and quality childcare. You've made huge progress in those arenas, but there's more needed. Creating family-friendly amenities and energized downtowns. We've seen that your community has been losing that young professional and young family demographic, and we need to make sure we're investing in things in the community that retain them. It's absolutely tied to economic development and your future potential to grow your economy. And then the final one, this is something that we heard from the community, as Deborah said, I've engaged with over 300 people there in this process. And time again, people said, we really want our communities to be beautiful places. And they've said too, and I agree with them, that we should strive to have a zero tolerance for blight attitude. So accelerating efforts to eliminate blight, it's only going to boost the confidence of the folks living there and make you an even more attractive location for the companies and talent that you want to have in Reno County and Hutchinson. So with that, I know that this is a lot of information, and hopefully you've all received a copy of the strategy so you can dig in, but I want to offer a few recommendations to conclude. First of all, economic development is a team sport. And when I was engaged to help you with the strategy, the first thing on people's mind was making sure that leadership organizations, public sector, private sector, nonprofit, education, all of those organizations are in alignment and they're walking in step towards building this economy, and that our actions are connected. So start your implementation by establishing an implementation team of the organizations that are going to play a role in implementing the strategy. And this next slide shows you the way that kind of an economic development ecosystem lays out and the traditional roles and responsibilities for various organizations. And you have many of these. I don't think that you have all of them just yet, but over time you will. So there's a list of what a traditional economic development organization would do, as well as what a chamber would do, as well as what local government is responsible for, and entrepreneurial organizations. You can read this for yourself, but this should give you a nice reference point as you're going through and saying, well, who would be responsible for implementing that? Or we have a new opportunity, we're not sure who should handle it. Look at this list as a starting point. This is based on leading practices from across the country. It's not just Amy pulling stuff out of the sky. So, look at this and use this as a tool for deciding who does what. Good. And then there's a few other recommendations when it comes to implementation. We're recommending a countywide community image campaign branded as the Elevate Reno County Image Campaign. And that campaign can have a lot of really fun tentacles and efforts to boost confidence across the county and within our towns and cities, and help people who live there know that what they say about the community and kind of their enthusiasm for it does radiate outward, and it does impact your ability to attract and retain good companies and talent. So remind people of all of the good things that you have to offer there, and I've offered a number of recommendations. I hope to see some of these come to life over the next 5 years. I think that this would be a really neat initiative for everyone there. And then finally, it wouldn't be a strategy without thinking about dollars and how we measure progress. So I've offered a few recommendations on how to fund this. We will need to resource this strategy. Of course, you've got a fundraising team who's going to be stepping in right as I'm leaving, or kind of passing the baton over to them. That's one part of this. But there's a number of other tools that you can employ to make sure that we have really good, robust resources to implement. And then finally, I think the last slide is about measuring and reporting progress. What's measured matters in these strategies. So we're recommending, I think there's 7 kind of leading indicators I would advise you to follow and track on an annual basis and report back out to the community to look at our progress. You could even compare yourselves again to those benchmark counties that we included in our own analysis. There's other indicators you could include, but these 7, like GDP per capita, salary levels, job growth, growth in that early career population, educational attainment. These are all important measures, and the data for these measures are all available through public sources. So just get a good research brain behind this and make sure that you're tracking those numbers and reporting out on at least an annual basis. And with that, this is a sample of the implementation table that I talked about earlier. This is just again, a snapshot of the one for the first goal, but know that this level of detail is available for every goal in the strategy. And with that, I'm going to answer any questions you have, and I know Deborah is there to answer questions as well, since I can't see your smiling faces right now, but I'm here for you if you want to discuss anything. Thank you. But there you are. Hi.
Thank you, Amy. I think we are really privileged to have been able to work with Amy, and I know she said she's kind of leaving us now with the baton to move into implementation, and one of the big steps is securing funding. So at the same time we selected Amy's firm for strategic planning, the Chamber and Greater Hutch and Startup Hutch are working hand in hand with a firm called Opportunity Funding that are going to be working with us on our fundraising strategy over the next few months so that we can properly resource all of the things that we need to put this fully into implementation. So but Amy, she won't leave us completely. I mean, I think she's probably on call when we need her, but this is your opportunity to ask her some questions, so fire away.
No questions, but thank you for Amy. Thank you to Amy for agreeing to step in and do this work. We kind of went away from the model of figuring this strategic plan out by separating the fundraising from the actual planner. So, and everybody was willing to do that because we liked what Amy had to say. So,
thank you.
I guess my question's more for you as far as what the next step is for getting everyone in the community on board. Is it a community meeting? Here's what we're learning. Where are gaps in organizations that we need to? I mean, we have a chamber and we have a city council, but where are gaps in some of those slides?
Right. When you look at all those different kinds of organizations that are traditionally involved in a holistic plan like this, we do have most of those. There's some CDFIs and CDCs that aren't really local to us, but we can tap into those resources when we need to. But almost all of those interest groups are represented, and many of them are already on the advisory group. But when we presented this to the county 2 weeks ago, we were at South Hutch last week. We're going to be in Haven, I think November 6th. I'm skipping over Bueller, October 28th. We're going to be in Highlands, I believe, November 10th. We're going out to each and every community across Reno County to present the same information so that everyone in Reno County can see their place and their role in elevating Reno County together, because it really is the work of all of us. It's not just one organization. We also met with the Economic Development Advisory Council, the Startup Hutch Board, and some of the board members of the Community Foundation in a work session while Amy was here on the 8th. And, we posed the question to people in that room, like, do you see yourself in this work? And many people started citing examples of ways that they see that they could get involved. And so my charge for the community is, if you see yourself wanting to really be on the team of working hand in hand for implementation on any one of these goals or strategies, reach out to us at the chamber. We're going to have an advisory group meeting on October 31st to kind of like do a level set and then start the implementation phase and seek other volunteers. When we get into capital campaign mode, there's going to be a lot of other subcommittees that we need to be involved. So I encourage people that want to get involved in that work and see what it's like behind the scenes, the more the merrier. But, I think economic development, we all have a role in some of the direct project work. But just like getting involved in cleaning up neighborhoods, Amy said there was so much that came out of the surveys and focus groups about cleaning up our communities, and everyone can have a small hand in that. I think when Bueller met recently and talked about housing, they even talked about, could students at the schools get involved as volunteers and do a paint, brush up day like we have Brush Up Hutch, but really engage volunteers. And that was Amy encouraged us to look at I think it was Asheville's United Way, how they have a really strong volunteer core that goes out and does community projects. So the numbers of ways that we can get people in the community involved in this is really limitless. I just think now we just have to dig in, take the plan, a bite at a time, but really engage people in the work.
Hutchai does that. So if you guys need any tips, we'd be happy to share with Bueller or any of the other schools. I think seeing it broken down into the buckets with the different partners at the top and essentially the tasks underneath is really helpful. That makes it feel less daunting of, here's this big nebulous goal that we're working toward. It's more, here's everybody's place and here's how we move forward, and there's progress to be made on each individual item, meaningful progress that even if one gets stalled, the other parts can keep moving and keep advancing towards the goal, because everything should be making progress eventually. And it doesn't feel like they're pieces that are hinging upon one another, that you'd potentially get stuck on, essentially, that would cause your whole plan to collapse. So this plan feels very comprehensive. I watched the presentation to the county also. I think they had good questions too. I think as a whole, having sat in on one of those and hearing from the other committees that provided input, there was a lot of work that went into this, and now there's a lot of work to do as well, but.
Well, I
needs to
really
be
love
more
how
done.
you're exactly right. Breaking it down into the strategies and assigning roles and responsibilities was a big piece of what we wanted Amy to weigh in on for us. We can still, she can't read our minds. There are still going to be gray areas where there are different organizations involved in some of the strategies. But that saying of many hands make light work, I think it takes all of us working together to make this successful. And just like tonight, where you're talking about and acknowledging the investments we need to make in water and wastewater, issuing bonds so that we can secure the water rights that we need for the future, investing in modern sites and infrastructure like we've been doing are long game goals, but they're going to pay off in the high wage jobs. And you've seen us out front and center recently on some really big attraction opportunities to bring high wage jobs to Hutchinson and Reno County. So it all plays hand in hand. It's, then when you get the site visit here and they want to see the community, that's where the community needs to show well. And so we need to be doing the things that make our community show well to newcomers. And look, the work Carissa was speaking to tonight with housing development. Each and every piece of this is just so important. We already have the wheels in motion. This just really validates that we're doing the right things and gives us a playbook for the next 5 years. So I'm excited about it, and I appreciate you guys investing in it.
Yeah, thank you, Amy. To me, looking through this, it really solidifies to me the whole aspect of our community coming together as a whole. So we're all headed in the same direction. So that we don't have one entity over here to the left doing something and not being in line with everybody else. I just think this plan really puts us together so we can focus on where we need to head to as an entire community, not just individually. So I think this is a great thing.
And Amy's advice about let's put the 5, pieces of the star on our desks. Let's make it our North Star. Let's run everything that we do when we're making decisions through, does this fit the plan? And are we investing in the right things? You can use that as your litmus test. And if we use that as our guiding star for the next few years, I think we're headed in the right direction. So thank you all. Anything else for Amy? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Next item, please.
Item number 9, report of city officials.
We're going to go with John first.
Well, we have 2 scary events. We have Halloween and we have elections coming up. I would encourage everyone to take part in both. Watch out for running over council members or anyone running for council, walking the streets, or kids in costumes walking the streets. I really don't need to add anything more to that.
You better knock on wood. Greg, you'll go next.
Thanks to all of those that attended Southwest Bricktown Fiesta. It was a good time, and I would encourage everybody to vote. I voted today. You can vote ahead of time, I think, through the Friday before the elections. So anyway, that's all I have.
I guess you guys kind of covered everything I was going to talk about. I just encourage everyone to get out and vote as well. And then I guess with Halloween coming up, just everyone be safe and in our community, and that's all I got.
Mr. Garza?
Yes, Southbound Bricktown was fun. I loved to dance, but this year I find out I'm getting older, and it was a little hard for me to get out there. A lot of it's because it was cold out there, really kind of cool out there. But also, I'd like to get everybody to get out and vote and be safe on Halloween. That's all I have. Thank you.
I will reiterate, be safe and get out and vote. I would like to recognize, I think some of them were here earlier and they've left since, but our Public Works Employee of the Year, Adam Wooten, Public Works Runner-Up, Wade Kuhn, Utilities Employee of the Year, Tyler Epp, and Utilities Runner-Up, Nathan Martin. Cecil, can you come tell us about how you select these employees of the year and the runners-up and what made them stand out to you?
Yeah, so one of the things we do with this is all of the people that won this year have to be on the committee next year.
Oh, okay.
So they kind of double-edged sword for them. But all of the nominees are from staff. So management can nominate people, but it's more about the people that are working with them, what they nominate. And three of our kind of guiding in public works and utilities is, do the right thing, do it well, work together. So that's on the questionnaire. That's the three things when they nominate somebody, they have to fill out how are they, doing the right thing, how are they doing it well, and how do they work together. So when we get those nominees together, that committee sits through it. It's made up of some of management and then last year's winners. And we kind of go through all the names and just rotate through and, how does this person best fit that category? So, and we had some really good nominations this year. So we debated a while before we came up with who we were going to pick from those. So.
Yeah, I think knowing the level of employees that you guys have, like that would be hard to pick. You guys have a lot of really good people working for you.
Yeah, we do right now.
So.
We've got a really good team. So.
Yeah, thank you for telling us about that. Mr. Villegas.
Thank you. Actually, John, since you're in the audience, could you share about Tyler and just kind of his experience? He was nominated Utilities Employee of the Year. He's really knocked it out of the park. And so I think to hear it from John would be great.
So John Haver, I'm the wastewater superintendent. Tyler, we kind of poached him from the RO plant back in March and really had him step in and do a lot of great work out at the wastewater plant, getting a new crew up and to the ability of where they're at now. If you look at most of our employees out there, the operators are 1 year or less of experience, and they have come together and really turned the wastewater treatment plant around. They are all very hungry for knowledge, but Tyler is the glue that keeps all them together. He's came up with a lot of training programs to teach a lot of them new stuff. So he's stepped up and has done a great job.
Thank you, John.
Yep.
Thank you.
So just a few things. I did have the honor and privilege to be able to represent the city of Hutchinson today in Manhattan this morning. The Lieutenant Governor had invited me to serve on a panel to speak on tourism and its impact to the state. I spent a lot of time talking about the tourism powerhouse that Hutchinson is and kind of how we navigate those things. So hopefully other communities can then borrow those for what they're working on. And I did have a good meeting with the state fire marshal last week. We talked about some other business, but then we eventually got to naturally cities are competitive with one another. We fight for employers, and we also fight for people to live here and not move somewhere else. And what generally comes up is, why is it difficult to build here versus somewhere else? There are a lot of factors that go into play. It could be training, years of experience, know-how, or whether or not they have a volunteer fire department or a building official or a fire marshal. There's so many things that play into that. And so I shared those things that because we have the staff, we have the know-how, and we're also under a legal obligation. We have an agreement with the state fire marshal's office that we will enforce the letter of the law. That's signed by both entities, so we shouldn't look the other way, even ethically. And so the state fire marshal is very aware of that, the inconsistencies across the state. So he did advise that at some point in the future, next couple of months, that all the volunteer fire chiefs, he planned to get them together to kind of train them on the things that they should be doing, so to hopefully eliminate well, how come they didn't have to put a sprinkler in their downtown building, but we did. Because it's really not fair to us that we're just doing what's being asked of us to do. So hopefully that reaps rewards for others. Similar to that, and staff's been working on this for many months now, but in the same vein of saving the city money, on hopefully saving up enough money so we don't have to bond water main replacements anymore. We've been working on reducing our building permit fees. That's been something that we've been taking a really hard look at, and where we're at in the process and what we found. I consider this a teaser, that on the commercial side we're a little more expensive than our peers. On the residential side we're either lower or at market rate for our permit fees. And so we would bring forth a recommendation of of scaling back some of our permit fees just to kind of ease the burden on everyone else. So hopefully that'll be beneficial for everyone in the community. And then finally, I do have a letter from Chief Beer that I will read to you all. City Manager Villegas, after many months or so of praying about my retirement with my wife, I have decided to retire from the City of Hutchinson on March 27th of 2026. This will give me 9 years as the City of Hutchinson Fire Chief and a combined total of 41 years in the fire service. It is now time to start a new chapter in my life by giving back to my wife, children, and grandkids. I have spent most of my life working in the public sector and have met and worked with some tremendous individuals. The support from this community, city manager, city council, city staff, and fire department staff members and fire department members is unparalleled. I am forever grateful to have been able to work alongside such individuals and consider many of these individuals my friends. We have met many individuals here in Hutchinson that have turned into great friendships, and Hutchinson will always be a part of our home for me and my wife. I have worked through all ranks within my career and understand what it takes to operate a career fire department. I have fond memories with all the community partners that HFD has worked with. I have taken this job seriously and am proud of what HFD has accomplished over the past 9 years. Like I said many times, HFD has some of the best firefighters that I have ever worked with. My commitment to HFD has always been to have an understanding that our members are our greatest assets and that training is the key to success. The changes and challenges continue to evolve in the fire service and HFD. I believe HFD is set up for continued success for your next fire chief. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be Hutchinson's 11th fire chief. Thank you.
We have to okay this, don't we? It's not happening.
You know, and one of the reasons why I had asked Chief Beer to be the assistant city manager, so he has the dual title there. We've been trying to work really hard on making sure that, one, the city is a respected partner in the community again. And we've been working really hard on trying to change that image. And I didn't have to look very far to see who had done that in Chief Beer. When he came to the fire department, there was a lot of TLC. And whenever I'm out in the community and someone's like, hey, fire chief, you know, what's going on? There's always so much respect for our fire department now. And so his leadership and what he can bring to the team was really unparalleled for us, especially in being able to mentor Chief Burley, being able to mentor and work very closely with our dispatch director on the public safety side of what we do. Has been very instrumental in moving those departments forward. So he has certainly made an impression on me, and he's definitely someone that I respect very highly. So thank you, Chief Beer.
Are you moving away? Are you staying here with us when you retire? I mean, that's probably not a good question to ask, but.
I'll be back in the fall hunting whitetails.
Oh, okay.
So, we'll be in Arizona, up in Wisconsin by our kids and grandkids, and then hunting obviously a big part of my life. And Reno County is the best place in America.
Can I ask you a question about fire code?
Yes.
So the state is operating on 2018 fire code.
Correct.
And under home rule, we can adopt the 2024 fire code, but we have not. And so we're still operating under 2020 or 2018. Some municipalities have adopted the 2024 fire code. Is that something that we are considering in the light that we don't know when it will be adopted from the state? Or is that something we should consider?
Chief, I'll turn it over to him.
Okay. Because I know with that comes changes that would be made to our building code as well.
Correct. Actually, the state is under the 2006 codes right now.
Okay.
They're looking to adopt the 2024 codes. So every 6 years they update it. So you're right, we're at the 2018 presently. So I think as soon as the state makes that move up, we'll make that move with them.
Okay. I have read that the reason we're caught is because the legislature had passed a rule that any administrative ruling would require like a budget office assessment, and that there were too many fire departments of varying sizes for the state to conduct that audit, essentially. Is that accurate?
And I think you're seeing a big change in Kansas right now with consolidations across the board. You see it right here in Reno County.
Mhm.
Reno County's going from 9 fire districts down to 1 fire district. Well, actually 2, because we cover Fire District 2. But no more having each of their own entities. They're all going to be Reno County Fire District 1 starting January 1st. And so you're seeing that in other places throughout the state here. And I think that'll have a big impact on, departments going forward. Consolidation is the wave of the future. It's been that way for probably the past 10 years. When you can, especially on capital outlay projects, when you can share that cost with other municipalities and stuff like that for the same resources, it's a win-win for each community. And so I think that's something that is going to keep growing here, and we'll see what the future brings.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
That's all I had.
Next item.
Item number 10, future agenda items, inoperable vehicle discussion, and item 11, executive session.
Okay. And we'll resume at 9 o'clock then.
So moved.
Second.
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes.
Magers?
Yes.
Goss?
Yes.
here. We've reconvened, need to make a motion to recess into executive session and decide how long you want initially for that.
10 minutes?
10 minutes is fine, yeah.
We can always extend.
How much? 10 minutes.
So moved. Let's just go to 9:15.
Fair enough.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Here. I was gonna say, you don't have it, do you? Okay.
Yeah, we got 3 more executives after this.
Richardson.
Yes.
Garza.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
Meggers.
Yes.
Goss.
Yes.
How are you, Captain? You sleeping? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
9:15. The over and under was what, Scott?
Richardson.
Yes.
Garza. Fast.
Here.
Meggers.
Yes.
Goss.
Yes.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, we never.